Why? Well, Trump, Manafort, Carter Page also said, I guess they're telling the truth too. The whole notion, we're just talking about computer hacks in this email that I got, and it looked legit, even to me. And I am an expert at recognizing phony phishing attacks and other things. But the notion that somebody could hack into your computer and take control of it, average people don't think that could happen to them because not enough people know who they are or think what they're doing is important enough to have that happen. How likely is it that somebody would do that to you? Most people have no idea what you even have on a computer and how this would even happen. But it does. It does happen more often now than you would think. It happens most often when you're online and click on a bad link, not knowing that your computer is about to be infected with something called ransomware. It locks up your computer, it takes over your screen, and the thief responsible for the activity will let go of your computer, give you control back for something like $500. Years ago, they would have asked for $10,000, but nobody could pay that. So all these ransomware attacks didn't go anywhere. They've lowered the price now to where it's just easier to give the ransomware guy $500 than to try to track down who's doing it and undo it. So how do you protect yourself? The answer, my friends, is LifeLock. That's how you protect yourself and your computers, your devices from ransomware attacks. LifeLock's identity theft protection includes Norton Security software. That's what protects your computers and your other devices from ransomware. Norton Security deals with the hardware of your devices, not the software, not the online communications. It's added protection that you do need in a time when online identity theft and computer takeovers happen more and more every day. Now, nobody can prevent all identity theft, but folks, LifeLock is in a league of its own. It doesn't take long to call a roll in the class LifeLock is in. Plans start at less than $10 a month. And that includes the Norton Security software. So sign up at lifelock.com or call them at 800-440-4833. Either way, use my name and you'll get 10% off the first year and a $25 Amazon gift card. That's LifeLock at 800-440-4833. Do not wait to do this. You need your protection starting ASAP. This is Hannah in Hartsville, South Carolina. I'm glad you called. Welcome.
Thanks for having me on, Rush. How are you?
Fine and dandy. Thank you.
Good. I'm a conservative millennial here in South Carolina, and I just want to tell you first, I'm so grateful for your voice. It is so needed, and we just couldn't do it without you.
Well, thank you very much.
To get on to my question, I wanted to see if you thought that there were any indicators on how Murkowski, Collins, and Flake will vote. You know, we have this sideshow going on, but it really comes down to what happens on Friday morning. And I also want to know if you think that since Grassley went ahead and scheduled the vote for Friday morning, do you think that that's an indicator that he believes he has the votes to confirm Kavanaugh?
Normally, I would say yes to that. I think that's for the most part. Yeah, you could think that that's what Chairman Grassley believes. But this wrench thrown into the mix today is going to, I think, kind of confuse whatever thinking existed. The hearing tomorrow is just ballsy Ford. Now we've got this latest edition brought to us by the porn star attorney. And it may be the tipping point. This may be the jumping the shark moment in all of this. As for Murkowski and Collins, nobody knows how they're leaning. They haven't said. Murkowski, however, has backed off one thing. Earlier in the week, Senator Murkowski was suggesting that an FBI investigation into ballsy Ford's incident would be very helpful. I mean, if the FBI can look into this and declare something, it'd be very helpful. She has since walked back her demand for an FBI investigation. And she is saying this is not about a Supreme Court nomination. This is about whether or not a woman is to be believed. That was Senator Murkowski. Senator Collins is holding her decision or cards closer to the vest. In my mind, I don't know how either of these women can look at what's happening today and in any way side with the Democrats on this, but I'm not there and I'm not them.
Celebrating the American way every day of the year. Rush on the EIB network.
Simply Safe is another one of our great success stories. Fantastic protection. Simply Safe system is easy to use. It takes just minutes to set up. And there are no contracts or no hidden fees. 24/7 monitoring. Only $14.99 a month. Visit simplysafeusa.com to order your Simply Safe system now. My listeners get 10% off. Just go to simplysafeusa.com for 10% off. simplysafeusa.com.
Payroll is complex and time-consuming, and mistakes can mean tax trouble for you and your small business. Sure Payroll makes it fast and easy. Pay employees, contractors, and yourself in minutes from your computer or mobile device. Just enter wage information, and Sure Payroll does the rest. Federal, state, and local payroll taxes are accurately calculated and filed, guaranteed. To learn more and get a free 1-month trial, visit SurePayroll.com now or call 844-SURE-PAYROLL.
Elvis is back. And this time, he's bringing his friend Johnny Cash with him.
I hear the train coming. It's
Alpha Media presents the Elvis and Johnny Tribute with Joseph Hall and Paul Eve. Friday night, November 2nd in the Cardiff Center at Fort Frenzy.
Every time I hear new boy, baby cry. Because you're mine, I'll walk the line.
Doors open at 5:30 and the Elvis and Johnny Tribute starts at 7. Tickets are $25 in advance or $30 at the door. Get them now at Hy-Vee Fort Dodge, the Iowa Outdoor Store, or Fort Frenzy. Bring the whole family to see this tribute to the king of rock and roll and the man in black as Joseph Hall and Paul Eve present the Elvis and Johnny Tribute. Friday night, November 2nd at Fort Frenzy. Brought to you in part by Riley Armstrong Plumbing and Heating, Cactus Family Farms, the Iowa Outdoor Store, and United Bank of Iowa in Fort Dodge and Rockwell City. The Elvis and Johnny Tribute is an Alpha Media event.
If you're looking for a new floor, there are lots of places you can shop, but none compared to Jim's Carpet One. Hi, this is Dean Sternberg. You'll find an amazing selection either in our showroom or in your living room during our free in-home consultation and room measurement. Choose from a great selection of every type of flooring. Our trained experts will help you find the perfect floor with a guaranteed installation. At Jim's Carpet One, our 1,000 store buying power saves you money every day, and we offer the best warranties in the business. Only at Jim's Carpet One, the one store for your perfect floor, across from Decker Truck Line in Fort Dodge.
For a child with asthma, it can seem like monsters are everywhere. Even an innocent teddy bear with dust mites could trigger their next asthma attack. Learn more at noattacks.org or call 866-NO-ATTACKS. Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
I leave you with a thought. Ballsy, Ford, Ramirez, Swetnick. They have anything to lose by lying? Are there any consequences for them by lying? There weren't to Anita Hill. No, they have no consequences. There's no reason not to lie for them.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of someone getting away with a crime.
Snitches get stitches. Narc 5-0.
In times like these, reporting a crime or helping the police can be a tough decision. A no-snitching culture has sprung up in our communities, making it unpopular and sometimes even dangerous to report a crime. Reporting a crime is not snitching. It's the right thing to do. We must all do the right thing by helping each other to report a crime. You can remain anonymous when calling 911 or texting a tip line. Crime hurts all of us, and it hurts us more when we're afraid to report it. If you're a victim of a crime, report it. If you see someone become the victim of a crime, report it. Encourage others to report it. There is strength in numbers. Reporting a crime can mean fewer victims. Take back our neighborhoods and communities from criminals and gangs. To learn more on how to do the right thing, visit ncpc.org or contact your local law enforcement agency.
A message from the U.S. Department of Justice, National Crime Prevention Council, and the Ad Council. This is Gary Rima, the voice of the UNI Panthers, and you can listen to exciting Panther sports right here on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD.
The president doubles down on Lisa Brady, Fox News, defending his Supreme Court nominee.
He's a high-quality person. They're bringing people out of the woods. They can do that to anybody.
Again, accusing Democrats of a con game. President Trump answering questions about a third woman accusing Brett Kavanaugh of sexual misconduct through her attorney, Michael Avenatti.
He's a lowlife. He represented Democrats. Nobody ever talks about that. He's a Democrat lawyer. Not a very good one, but he's a Democrat lawyer.
Fox's Jared Halpern live on Capitol Hill.
With these latest allegations, Democrats are again urging confirmation hearings to stop.
I don't believe Brett.
If my Republican colleagues have any sense of morality, they will refuse to go forward on Friday.
The Judiciary Committee Democrat Richard Blumenthal also renewing calls for an FBI review a day before Kavanaugh and an earlier accuser, Christine Blasey Ford, testify. But committee Republican Lindsey Graham says there's no reason for delay based on this latest account.
And I don't believe Brett Kavanaugh is a serial rapist. There's nothing in his background, the way he's lived his life, to give legitimacy to these claims.
Republican leaders suggest a final confirmation vote could happen early next week, Lisa.
Meantime, Jared Kavanaugh denies the latest allegation, calling it ridiculous and from the Twilight Zone. The Fed chief says current fiscal policy is boosting the economy.
Our economy is strong. Growth is running at a healthy clip. Unemployment is low. The number of people working is rising steadily, and wages are up.
Jay Powell speaking moments ago after the Fed announced its third interest rate hike of the year, also dropping the word accommodative, which means favoring low rates, though Powell says they'll continue to monitor closely for vulnerabilities in the economy. The central bank also boosting its forecast for growth to just over 3% this year. Fox News, fair and balanced.
When working at a growing business, you wear many hats. The new business hat, the buying toner for the copy machine hat, the sifting through tons of resumes hat. You can throw away that last hat thanks to Indeed.com. When posting your job, Indeed lets you add screener questions that give you a less time-consuming route to your short list of qualified candidates. So go ahead, dust off that extra long lunch hat. Hiring's better when you've got your short list. Save time on hiring when you post a job on Indeed. Get started today at Indeed.com/hire.
Renowned medical correspondent and endurance race champion, Bob Arnott, MD.
People ask me, how do you keep competing at the age of 70? Healthy living is important, but so is pain relief. If you have pain, you can't train. So I'm thrilled I discovered Salonpas Lidocaine Plus. This unique topical pain reliever contains 2 safe and effective anesthetics. Nothing has worked better for me.
Salonpas Lidocaine Plus, cream or roll-on.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo will head back to North Korea.
The State Department says the secretary has accepted an invitation from Kim Jong-un to travel next month to Pyongyang. Officials say they'll work to prepare a second summit between President Trump and Chairman Kim. Last month, Pompeo canceled what would have been his 4th trip to Pyongyang, citing a lack of progress on North Korea surrendering its nuclear weapons program. The State Department says Kim has agreed to finish dismantling his weapons by early 2021. In the meantime, the Trump administration says it fully expects other countries to enforce sanctions against North Korea. At the State Department, Rich Edson, Fox News.
Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro arriving in New York for a meeting of the UN General Assembly, where his government has been sharply criticized by other world leaders, including President Trump. But Maduro says he's prepared to defend his country. Several Latin American nations and Canada earlier today asked the International Criminal Court to investigate Venezuela's government, accusing it of crimes against humanity. President Trump, meantime, holding more meetings on the sideline of the UN event, his latest with Japan's prime minister, where he repeated allegations that China is trying to meddle in the U.S. midterms because of his tough stance on trade. China denies it. Snapchat letting people register to vote in the app.
U.S. users over the age of 18 will start to receive a register to vote link. Clicking on it will take them to a TurboVote mobile site to register. In addition, Snapchat plans to send a team message to the 80% of its American users who are of voting age. Relevant news stories will also link to the registration page. The goal to boost the historically low levels of young voter turnout. Instagram also partnering with TurboVote to promote voter registration through ads and launching an I voted story sticker, which will be available on Election Day.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin. An hour to the close, stocks are higher. The Dow's up 22. Lisa Brady, Fox News Radio.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagala with the KVFD Afternoon News. Senator Chuck Grassley has asked a female prosecutor from Arizona to ask questions tomorrow of the woman who has accused U.S. Supreme Court nominee of a sexual assault. Radio Iowa's O.K. Henderson reports.
Grassley says Rachel Mitchell will ask questions of Christine Blasey Ford and of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh instead of having Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee do the questioning. Democrats on the committee will still be able to ask questions of the two witnesses. Grassley says Mitchell is an experienced sex crimes prosecutor who will depoliticize the hearing and get to the truth instead of, in Grassley's words, grandstanding and giving senators an opportunity to launch their presidential campaigns. Radio Iowa, I'm O.K. Henderson.
On Monday, DNR staff from Mason City investigated a manure spill about 4 miles southwest of Eagle Grove in Wright County. Overnight on Sunday, manure from a hog confinement owned by DMC Property Rentals LLC of Humboldt backed up into a building, then flowed into a ditch. An unknown amount of manure reached drainage ditch 49, which enters the Boone River about 1 mile downstream. Owner Mitch Christopher discovered the spill about 9 a.m. on Monday. He immediately stopped the release and built dams to contain manure on site. DNR's field tests in drainage ditch 49 showed normal ammonia levels. Staff did not find any dead fish in the ditch, but did find live fish downstream. The DNR will continue to monitor cleanup and consider appropriate enforcement action. This week, the U.S. imposed 10% tariffs on another $200 billion worth of Chinese goods, which was met with retaliatory tariffs on $60 billion worth of American goods. Kirk Leeds, president and CEO of the Iowa Soybean Association, says hope for a long-term solution to the trade war with China are fading.
It's clear that both the U.S. government and now the Chinese government even more so appear to be kind of laying in for a long battle here. And there's just very little reason right now to be optimistic about any short-term resolutions.
A study released Tuesday by Iowa State University estimates because of new tariffs, Iowa's soybean industry faces losses between $159 million and $891 million. Leeds says it's possible the situation will get worse before it gets better.
I've been saying for a long time that the story of 2018 is one thing, but the thing that most farmers ought to be more concerned about, and I think the country should be more concerned about, is what about 2019? And that's where it could really get serious.
According to research and data from the Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance, Fort Dodge has seen considerable amount of job growth in the last 5 to 10 years. Fort Dodge Growth Alliance Economic Development Director Kelly Halstead shared a report with the Fort Dodge City Council on Monday detailing the job growth in the region.
In the last 5 years, we've added 1,449 new jobs on a net basis. And then over the last 10-year, which I think is even more important period, that we have increased our wages in our region, in our county, by 24.5%. So we're creating jobs that are actually raising the wages that we have in our community.
Halstead said that the largest sector of the local economy is healthcare and social assistance at 16.4%, with retail trade at 13.5% and manufacturing at 12.4%. Dennis Plotz is the executive director of the Growth Alliance and says Fort Dodge is in a good spot.
I do think that Fort Dodge is extremely well positioned right now. If you look at the investments that have been made in Webster County in recent years, you're getting huge investments that can't be moved. They're using so many more indigenous materials, and most importantly, they're companies that are worldwide and have access to the global markets.
This has been Alex Benzagala with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD Weatherology forecast. Clear skies this afternoon with a high of 64. West winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies. Tonight, lows around 49. High of 69. Tomorrow, cloudy. Turning much cooler Friday and Saturday with highs in the upper 50s. Showers both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 63.
The opinions and remarks expressed on this radio program by the host, guests, and call-in listeners are the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not reflect the views of management or ownership of KVFD AM 1400.
What you got there, Bob?
Oh, I've got field planner, variable rate seeding, crop health index on satellite imagery, nitrogen management, soil fertility, yield explorer.
Are you talking about Encirca Services?
Yeah.
Why didn't you just say Encirca Services?
Encirca Services.
The Iowa Secretary of State's office wants you to be voter ready for the November 6th election. It's easy. Register to vote, bring your ID, or sign an oath of identity and cast your ballot. Register, prepare, vote. For more information, visit voterreadyiowa.org.
As the nation's leader in pork production and pork exports, Iowa's pork producers are doing things right. It's their ethical and moral responsibility. Hog farmers keep their pigs safe and healthy, safeguard natural resources, protect public health, and build strong communities every day. Pork quality, responsible production, and continuous improvement are roles they take very seriously. Iowa's pork producers, producing safe, affordable food. Sponsored by Iowa's pork producers and their pork checkoff.
The Webster County pork producers remind you when it comes to protecting their family's health, Iowa's pig farmers are some of the most concerned people around. Safe, affordable, delicious, and nutritious pork can be served for your dinner tonight. Roasted, grilled, stewed, sauteed, stir-fried, broiled, kebabbed, sauced, dipped, sandwiched in your new recipes and your old recipes. Why not buy some pork today and serve it up tonight? This message brought to you by the Webster County pork producers, striving to serve people, pigs, and the planet.
Divine Intervention at AM 1400 KVFD, where Fort Dodge talk.
Who cares what people say about you? We love you.
Michael Devine. A lot of people like that show. Because you need more than a newspaper.
Email, online, surfing the web, HTML, good buddy.
At AM 1400 KVFD.
Yes, it is. I'm Michael Devine. We got a lot to talk about today. I'd like to talk about it with you. So 515-955-1400, 515-955-1400 if you'd like to join the conversation. Tiger Woods is having somewhat of a renaissance at the age of 42. Just came off a big victory after some down years. He was sensational as a 20 years old. He was absolutely sensational. And he's still a legend in golf, and he's still playing. He's won 80 tournaments, 80. Now, what started Tiger's problems were his infidelities, and there were a lot of them. He was married to a beautiful woman, had a couple of children. He was a billionaire by the time he was in his 30s. Apparently, it wasn't enough. So, while he's on tour, hotels around the country apparently provided services for professional golfers like Tiger Woods. Now, these services included party rooms, essentially. Liquor was served, and the hotels now provided young women to work at these parties to serve the professional golfers and their hangers-on and their caddies and all the other, and the traveling entourage of millionaire professional athletes like golfers are. Well, Tiger began to have an affair, if you can call it an affair, with some of these young women. I don't really, I'm from Fort Dodge now, and I just want to say I don't call it an affair. Tiger was just hitting it all over the country. These young girls would show up to serve Tiger and the other golfers, and they wound up serving them a lot more than liquor and peanuts. Okay? Now, I'll never forget this one young woman who was hired as essentially a waitress. And she started having sex with Tiger Woods. Yeah, not an affair, just, when Tiger was in town, she'd come over under the guise of being a waitress, and it would be sex time. So you really can't call it an affair. He was hitting it. Come on. So this sort of behavior is going to work its way into the public view sooner or later. And believe me, Tiger Woods was one of these guys who didn't really try to hide it. He kind of depended on his favorable relationship with reporters to keep it under wraps. He was a privileged kid. He just thought these things were okay for him to do. Yeah, I'm out here. I'm on tour. Girls like to have sex with me, so why shouldn't I? I know I'm married with 2 kids, but what the heck? It's not hurting anybody. The wife is home taking care of the kids. I have her in a palace. She has everything that she wants. if I need a little stress relief in the form of a couple of waitresses, I figure it's my due. Wives never think that way. Wives never think that way. So the lid gets blown off this, and I don't know how many women came forward to say they had sex with Tiger Woods. But I do remember this one girl again. And she was apparently a regular or a favorite or something. But every time Tiger was in town, bang, she had a job at the hotel as a waitress, as essentially a waitress. Again, these were luxury suites these golfers was in. Tiger wasn't the only one there. There were many golfers, all millionaires, all privileged guys. And you get a bunch of young men like that together, and the girls are going to start coming around. Come on, man. We know this. So Tiger's wife finds out. And again, the whole thing, the lid blew off this whole thing. And I'll never forget this woman, this one regular. On television, she's saying, well, yes, I had sex with Tiger Woods several times over many months. I had no idea he was married. I had no idea he was married. You're having sex with one of the most famous men in the world. And you had no idea he was married. I'm thinking of this lately when I see all these accusers of Brett Kavanaugh. Michael Avenatti is a porn lawyer, essentially. He looks like an old school mob lawyer to me. I mean, he's got the shaved head. He even wears an earring sometime. And he's got that piercing tough guy look. He's got that piercing tough guy look. AM 1400 KVFD. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yeah, I hate to get you off your Rush Limbaugh rant, but check out the city site for the speed cameras.
Okay.
And they have one sitting in front of the old library, and you won't see that listed where they're supposedly got it now.
So we down at the
I
old
was just wondering if they're running low on revenue and not going to let people know where they're putting them now, or what is going on. Maybe when the mayor comes in, you can ask him.
Well, the mayor's
Talk
not
to
going to
you
be
later.
here.
Bye.
Boy, you're a drive-by, aren't you? That's about the third time in 6 weeks I've been called Rush Limbaugh. Am I being that obvious about it? I didn't think I was. Yeah, I got a kick out of the mayor. And I love the mayor. He's a great guy. I love his family. They're wonderful, wonderful people. All of them. His wife, his kids, his parents. I've met his brother, Mitchell, wonderful guy. Met his sisters. They're beautiful girls, very friendly. The Bemrick family is tops with me. But the mayor, being the mayor, he's he's going to say things to me every now and then to make my ears perk up. Yeah. The mayor wants to put the city's position forward the best way he can. I understand that. But when I went to a meeting a couple of weeks ago on this new change in the speed limits out by the hospital on Kenyon Road, the mayor took pains while I was at the podium to say, no, we're not going to have speed camera cars out there. We're not doing it for that. We're not going to have the cars out there. So I had him in the following Thursday. This was on Monday, and I had him in the following Thursday. And now he said, if we had a problem out there, we're going to have to put the speed camera cars out there. So, yeah. Speed camera cars are about revenue, period. End of story. And the idea that stretch between the Veterans Bridge and 15th Street is a residential area, so they can only have it at 20 miles per hour is a falsity. It's just, and I've had some of the top people in the city in here explaining that to me. Well, in a residential area, state law says that we have to keep it at 20 miles per hour. It's not a residential area. It's 4 blocks. You go out there and see yourself and tell me if that's a residential area. because I believe there's about 3 houses there that are actually occupied by human beings who call it home. The rest of it is parking lots and business. It's 20 miles an hour there so they can rack up the dollars. It's 20 miles an hour there so they can rack up the dollars. It should be 30 miles an hour there. It's a big, wide street. Come on, guys. It's a big, wide street. I've had council people stop coming on this program because I bring up this obvious falsity. I mean, Jeff Halder works for Iowa Central. Councilman Halder works for Iowa Central. And it was Iowa Central, the prison, Friendship Haven, and the hospital who wanted the speed reduction on Kenyon Road. Now, should that be a consideration? 4 of our largest employers. And also, let's keep in mind we have elderly people at the Friendship Haven trying to get in and out of there. What else do we have out there? We have college kids zooming back and forth to get to school. You know how kids are. I think I was in my late 20s by the time I went out to Iowa Central, and I'd even leave my house I was up on 14th Street at the time. I had an 8 o'clock class. I'd leave about 12 minutes to 8. So, you know, and a lot of time I'd make it, you know, so I have to raise my hand and admit that I'm guilty of speeding on Kenyon Road. So those things should be discussed. But whoop, I thought somebody was on the phone. I know somebody was on the phone. My little light here was flashing, but maybe they'll call back. The point being, Councilman Halder works for Iowa Central. And he should have recused himself. If somebody's on the council, they work for the hospital or the prison or the Friendship Haven, and certainly Iowa Central, they should recuse themselves from a vote. AM 1400 KVFD, good afternoon. You're on the air.
You're a clown.
Anything else? I wonder if that was a relative of Councilman Halder. Anyway, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 515-955-1400. Anyway, that should be the way things are done. I mean, to be ethical, if you work for a group or a company or a business or an institution, and that institution or business is pushing to have a speed limit change or some other change in public policy, because that's what this was. It was a change in public policy. So, yeah, the ethical thing to do is recuse yourself. Now, must not have occurred to Jeff this time, but I hope in the future, not just Councilman Halder, but anybody who has a connection. I believe Councilman Flattery has recused himself on votes in the past. Probably others have. I don't know. I don't know right off the top of my head. But in the future, I think we should hold their feet to the fire on that. If you're going to weigh in as a supervisor, as a council person, as a congressman, as whatever, and you have a direct connection, you should recuse yourself. You should recuse yourself. Anyway, yeah, I started out talking about Tiger Woods. Again, he's one of those guys, and I've seen other professional athletes. Joe Theismann, the old quarterback of the Washington Redskins, was another one. These guys, you know, they're star athletes from a very early age, and they're complimented and pampered almost from day one. Complimented and pampered almost from day one. And if someone reproaches them, if a controversy arises over their behavior, it's like they can't understand it. Joe Theismann was that way. He was actually an innocent. If somebody called him on something, he was just, what? I'm not supposed to do that, but I'm Joe Theismann. I can do anything. That's the way Tiger Woods acted. What? I'm Tiger. Everybody loves me. My wife loves me. My fans love me. The country loves me. Mom and dad love me. It's like the fact that he was involved with having sex with all these women was somehow his right. Now, okay, ladies, that was probably male privilege. But most men don't have it like that. Most men don't have that. Not that sort of privilege. Not that sort of privilege. Remember Kobe Bryant several years ago? Got himself in real trouble. He went to a hotel in Colorado. He checked in, and a young woman, 19 years old, who worked at the hotel, told a male colleague that she was going to go up and meet Kobe and be nice to him, or words to that effect. Well, she got in Kobe Bryant's room, and Kobe had sex with her and booted her out. I mean, it was pretty fast. I mean, there was no nuance, no sweet nothings, no compliments. Oh, yeah, you want to come in here because I'm Kobe? I know what you want. Bada bing, bada boom, and she's out. Well, there was a rape charge filed. And many professional athletes came forward to say, you know, this is the way it is. No, wherever we go, wherever, you know, no matter what city we go in to play ball in, after the game and after we shower and after we leave the shower, there's a bunch of women out there who want to go to a party with us. They want to, and they let us know they are sexually available to us. Now, this is not most women, and I have no idea what prompts young women to do this. The thrill of sleeping with a famous person. Remember, who was that? Gene Simmons with Kiss. I mean, this guy was an ugly guy. He was an ugly guy, and he had a book. He claimed he slept with over 1,000 groupies. 1,000. He had pictures of them and everything. I mean, they'd wait for him in a hotel. And apparently they'd just be in the lobby or something, dressed provocatively. He'd see one of these girls and swoop her up to his room. Bang, and the sex act happened. And they were out, just like that. I don't know what the women got out of it. I don't know. But here's the deal. If that happened today, these guys would be in serious trouble. These guys would be in real serious trouble because no young woman is going to admit to her mother that she was hanging around the locker room waiting for some professional basketball player to come out so she could go have sex with him somewhere. It could turn into something real ugly real quick. Now, we don't know now at this late date whether Professor Ford is going to testify tomorrow in opposition to Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation to the Supreme Court. There's apparently a last-minute hitch. Debbie Ramirez, a Yale classmate of Brett Kavanaugh's, will not testify at all. She just made some vague accusation, and she's out. Michael Avenatti, the mob lawyer and porn attorney, how did we get so debased? How did we get so twisted as to have this bizarre figure of Michael Avenatti injecting himself into these proceedings? This should be a solemn debate on the merits of Judge Kavanaugh. It's an ugly circus. It's dehumanizing. Jeff Flake, Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona, took the floor of the Senate today, and it was like he was in shock. It's like he had seen something horrible. I know how he was feeling. I think I've seen something horrible. I've seen something degrading and dehumanizing. I have seen something that makes me feel dirty. I've never felt this way before. Makes me feel dirty? No. This has. This can't be. This cannot be the way we do things. Oh, by the way, Senator Ted Cruz and his wife Heidi were having dinner last night in a very nice Washington, D.C. restaurant. Now, I've met Heidi Cruz. She's a brilliant woman, Harvard-educated attorney. Her and her husband, a United States senator, are out having dinner, and some creeps somehow got into the restaurant and started brutally harassing them. Ladies and gentlemen of the Democratic Party, is this who you are? I do not see you denouncing this. I do not hear you taking a stand for basic human decency. Does this make you feel dirty? Senator Ted Cruz has committed no crime. Heidi Cruz has done nothing unseemly or dirty. People who associate themselves with the Democratic Party have done these things, and the Democrats are silent. There has not been one Democrat to step forward and condemn what happened last night in a Washington, D.C. restaurant. Are you so full of hate? Are you so full of hatred that you countenance this sort of thing? Because if you are, you should stay silent.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Michael Devine. A lot of people like that show. Because you need more than a newspaper.
Email, online, surfing the web, HTML, good buddy.
At AM 1400 KVFD.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Democratic Party, if you cannot speak up, if you cannot condemn what happened to Senator Cruz and his wife last night, you should stay silent forever.
I used to post to job boards
only to sort through tons of resumes.
just to find a few candidates for
My sales team.
my hair salons.
That old process was not smart.
Then I went to ZipRecruiter
Its technology scans resumes for me to find the right people
and actively invites them to apply.
so I get qualified candidates fast. Smart.
See why ZipRecruiter is rated #1 by employers in the U.S. Try it now for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Based on Trustpilot rating of hiring sites with over 1,000 reviews.
My name is Dr. Jonathan Greenberg. Stop what you are doing because what I'm about to say will improve the quality of your life. ZYPPAH.com. That's ZPA. It's Happy Z spelled backwards. ZPA is designed to be comfortable, affordable, and effective at eliminating snoring. I want to help you stop snoring. Go to ZPA.com and order now. ZYPPAH.com. Snoring is a serious matter. ZPA will conquer your snoring problems. Go to ZPA.com and order now.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagala with the KVFD Afternoon News. Senator Chuck Grassley has asked a female prosecutor from Arizona to ask questions tomorrow of the woman who has accused U.S. Supreme Court nominee of a sexual assault. Radio Iowa's O.K. Henderson reports.
Grassley says Rachel Mitchell will ask questions of Christine Blasey Ford and of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh instead of having Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee do the questioning. Democrats on the committee will still be able to ask questions of the two witnesses. Grassley says Mitchell is an experienced sex crimes prosecutor who will depoliticize the hearing and get to the truth instead of, in Grassley's words, grandstanding and giving senators an opportunity to launch their presidential campaigns. Radio Iowa, I'm O.K. Henderson.
On Monday, DNR staff from Mason City investigated a manure spill about 4 miles southwest of Eagle Grove in Wright County. Overnight on Sunday, manure from a hog confinement owned by DMC Property Rentals LLC of Humboldt backed up into a building, then flowed into a ditch. An unknown amount of manure reached drainage ditch 49, which enters the Boone River about 1 mile downstream. Owner Mitch Christopher discovered the spill about 9 a.m. on Monday. He immediately stopped the release and built dams to contain manure on site. DNR's field tests in drainage ditch 49 showed normal ammonia levels. Staff did not find any dead fish in the ditch, but did find live fish downstream. The DNR will continue to monitor cleanup and consider appropriate enforcement action. This week, the U.S. imposed 10% tariffs on another $200 billion worth of Chinese goods, which was met with retaliatory tariffs on $60 billion worth of American goods. Kirk Leeds, president and CEO of the Iowa Soybean Association, says hope for a long-term solution to the trade war with China are fading.
It's clear that both the U.S. government and now the Chinese government even more so appear to be kind of laying in for a long battle here. And there's just very little reason right now to be optimistic about any short-term resolutions.
A study released Tuesday by Iowa State University estimates because of new tariffs, Iowa's soybean industry faces losses between $159 million and $891 million. Leeds says it's possible the situation will get worse before it gets better.
I've been saying for a long time that the story of 2018 is one thing, but the thing that most farmers ought to be more concerned about, and I think the country should be more concerned about, is what about 2019? And that's where it could really get serious.
According to research and data from the Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance, Fort Dodge has seen considerable amount of job growth in the last 5 to 10 years. Fort Dodge Growth Alliance Economic Development Director Kelly Halstead shared a report with the Fort Dodge City Council on Monday detailing the job growth in the region.
In the last 5 years, we've added 1,449 new jobs on a net basis. And then over the last 10-year, which I think is even more important period, that we have increased our wages in our region, in our county, by 24.5%. So we're creating jobs that are actually raising the wages that we have in our community.
Halstead said that the largest sector of the local economy is healthcare and social assistance at 16.4%, with retail trade at 13.5% and manufacturing at 12.4%. Dennis Plotz is the executive director of the Growth Alliance and says Fort Dodge is in a good spot.
I do think that Fort Dodge is extremely well positioned right now. If you look at the investments that have been made in Webster County in recent years, you're getting huge investments that can't be moved. They're using so many more indigenous materials, and most importantly, they're companies that are worldwide and have access to the global markets.
This has been Alex Benzagala with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Clear skies this afternoon with a high of 64. West winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, lows around 49. High of 69 tomorrow, cloudy. Turning much cooler Friday and Saturday with highs in the upper 50s. Showers both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 63.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 2:37. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Kim Humphrey has passed away. Services for Kim Humphrey will be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow at Gunderson Funeral Home, visitation from 4 to 7 today. Donald Junkman has died. Services for Mr. Junkman were at 2 o'clock today at St. Olaf Lutheran Church. Tina Lloyd has died at the age of 34. There will be a celebration of the life of Tina Lloyd at 10:30 in the morning Saturday here in town. Donna Hovick has passed. Services for Donna Hovick will be at 11 o'clock in the morning tomorrow at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. Visitation from 10 to 11 on Thursday at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, with Gunderson Funeral Home serving the family. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. It's 2:38 at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. With a look at the closing market report, here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. December corn down 0.75 cents at $3.63. March down 0.75 at $3.75. May down a penny at $3.82.5, and July down a penny at $3.87 3/4. November soybeans up 4 1/4 at $8.50. January up 4 cents at $8.63 3/4. March beans closed up 3 3/4 at $8.76.5, and May up 3 3/4 quarters at $8.89 3/4. December wheat down 3 1/4 cents at $5.17 1/2. Soybean meal up $1.50 a ton at $3.0770. October live cattle up $1.52 at $113.87. December up $1.65 at $118.85. September feeders up 42 cents at $157.05. October up $1.82 to $158.30. October lean hogs down 22 at $62.20. December down 52 at $57.22. I'm Dwayne Murley.
When all the lights go out, my dad has to go.
Taylor's dad is a line worker at the local electric cooperative. What does Daddy always say?
Be safe.
And what else? Always?
Always look good.
That's right. A power line can be closer than it appears. So when you're raising an auger or the bed of a grain truck, stay at least 10 feet away from power lines and poles. Use a spotter to be safe and
always look up.
Iowa's locally owned electric cooperatives want you to be safe and alert in the field this fall.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, for the Severe Weather Advisor. The Severe Weather Advisor is brought to you by Bruce Funeral Home and Cremation, Fort Dodge. You can count on Bruce Funeral Home and Cremation to help you plan a personal and lasting tribute to your loved one with care, comfort, and compassion. That's Bruce Funeral Home and Cremation, Fort Dodge, Community Health Center of Fort Dodge, providing quality health care for all, including medical, dental, and behavioral health. Make an appointment at their newly remodeled location in Fort Dodge, Community Health Center, and Creative Cakes in the Crossroads Mall, Fort Dodge, making life sweet with espresso, lunch, gourmet cupcakes, and other sweet treats. Stop in for something special today at Creative Cakes in the Crossroads Mall, Fort Dodge. They make life sweet. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
Viruses aren't sentimental. They don't care if you're raising livestock on the same land your great-grandfather did, or that you plan to pass this farm down to your children. Viruses simply want to infect, multiply, and spread. But James Allen Insurance, a family business, can help protect your heritage. We offer comprehensive coverage against pet and PRRS infections, the only coverage like it in the U.S. Learn more at jamesalleninsurance.com.
English muffin toasting bread for the best grilled cheese sandwiches. Toasted Dakota-style 12-grain with homemade jam. Cinnamon burst French toast with butter and real maple syrup. People are talking about their Country Hearth favorites, and we want to hear from you too. Join us on Facebook for great recipes, money-saving coupons, and special announcements, and our free Bread Friday giveaways. Join us at facebook.com/Country Hearth Bread. Country Hearth Breads, baking our best for you.
Divine Intervention at AM 1400 KVFD, where Fort Dodge talk.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
If you don't listen to him, you suck.
He's sneaky, but he's right.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
No, I don't know if I'm sneaky or not. I just don't have that in me. I don't have a filter. I'm always accused of that here at the radio station by younger people. Man, you have no filter. Well, when I was a young man, and a kid actually, speaking bluntly, and honesty was a virtue. In the age of, Obama and Clinton and all those phonies, it seems like we have to be a little nuanced in parsing our words. I mean, it really started with Clinton, I think, because he was shady. He was always trying to mislead you. He and his wife were obsessed with controlling the media, so they were always parsing their words and being cute, and that just drove the press crazy. And they investigated him even more. And he could never figure that out. He a brilliant man, the best politician of his generation by far, one of the best politicians in history. But he could never understand why the liberal media, because he was a liberal, why the liberal media wouldn't join him in deceiving the American people. My old government teacher at Iowa Central, I remember the first day of American government class. And by the way, my old government teacher is still prowling around Fort Dodge. But the first thing he said is, politics is the art of governing people by deceiving them. That lesson has stayed with me for 38 years. My old government teacher at Iowa Central, a lot of you who went to Iowa Central had him as well. The first thing he said at the opening of American government class was, politics is the art of governing people by deceiving them. The press did not want to join hands with Bill and Hillary and conspire to deceive the American people. I will say that for the press at the time. The press at the time was not interested in aiding them in doing that. I think the liberal media, being the liberal media, wanted definitely to see Clinton succeed and his liberal policies, his globalization succeed. Oh, gosh, he threw that globalization at them. And here it was, ladies and gentlemen. Here it is. We'll have foreign trade. We'll work to get China into the World Trade Organization and give them access to credit all over the world. We'll do all these things, and we'll be joined together economically, and we'll have no more wars. All we are saying is give peace a chance. Well, there was a little twist to that agreement. There was a little twist to that. Oh, by the way, we can't have all these unions. And believe me, ask Robert Reich, is one of his best friends from college, the man who apparently introduced him to Hillary Clinton. Inside the Clinton White House, when they were telling us that, oh, yeah, there may be some jobs we lose overseas, but have no fear. We'll train American manufacturers and their workers. If they lose their job, lose their position, we'll train them for better jobs. We'll train them for better jobs. Inside the White House, there were people running around. And remember, these are highly skilled, highly educated people. If they had any connection to working people or the lives or the struggles of ordinary working people, it was way back. Remember, Bill Clinton always wants to talk about his tough days back in a town called Hope. He only lived in Hope, Arkansas till he was 7 years old, then moved to Little Rock. When he moved to Little Rock, and while he was in high school, he had his own car and he played golf at the local country club. This wasn't some guy with patches on his knees and holes in his shoes. His mother liked to go over to Hot Springs and gamble. Miss Lucille. Yeah, this, and Hillary Clinton was really a child of privilege. And she had no time whatsoever for working class guys if she ever bumped into them. Let's face it, Hillary was not the greatest looking girl in the early 60s. And probably some crude boys from poor neighborhoods dissed her. Well, she was going to fix them, and she sure did. She sure did. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, yes, I know I like to beat up on them a lot, but we need to be reminded of these things. Oh, that promise Bill Clinton made about retraining workers, he broke that right away. And the way NAFTA was written, corporations took advantage of that deal to move their jobs overseas. I believe the washing and dryer manufacturer who was in Webster City and Jefferson for 3 generations is right across the Rio Grande River. That's what I've heard. They just packed up and left. Deserted workers at that plant without a second thought because it was advantageous for them to do so. Advantageous to do so. And Bill Clinton, a Democratic president who unions broke their back to help elect after 12 years of Reagan and Bush, got the shaft. So who do they have running for governor? One of the richest men in the state. I'm sure Frederick J. Hubbell has his finger on the pulse of the ordinary people of this country. Who are the Democrats anyway in Iowa? Who are the Democrats in Iowa? In the larger states, they want to be a bunch of micro communities. They want to be the party of urban professionals. They want to be the party of African Americans and Hispanics, and of course the LGBTQ whatever community. Those are their communities. They want to represent these communities. Do you see working people in that mix anywhere? No, you don't, because the economic interests of working people and urban professionals are different. Can we say it's different? How about oppositional? Frederick J. Hubbell is one of those guys. Frederick J. Hubbell, as I recall, in his career, and I've done a little work on him, I've never heard him come out and say, wow, we have to do something for average working people. We have to do something for rural Iowa. Governor Reynolds is making a big mistake with this Medicare privatization. The Republicans are making a big mistake with Medicare privatization. They could lose on that issue. They could lose the governorship on that issue. But believe me, we're in one of those rock and a hard place times once again. Hubbell's not going to do a lot for us out here in north central Iowa. Hubbell's not going to do a lot for us out here in north central Iowa. He's already said he'd have a moratorium on hog confinement buildings. Like it or not, and Greg Hora, by the way, president of the Iowa Pork Producers, will be here in about 10 minutes. 20 minutes, I guess, it'll be before he goes on the air. Greg likes to make a late curtain call. Greg wants to be late. It's fashionable to be late. Anyway, like it or not, pork is going to be in our future. Big pork is going to be in our future, and a lot of people are going to buy houses because of big pork. We got to get that tariff situation straightened out with China. We want to sell China a lot of pigs. But if we can be the pork part of international pork production right here in north central Iowa, if we have a key player in American exports of pork to other countries, that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge for our area and for our lives. Not going to make any that much difference to me. I'm a grandfather. I'm an old guy. By the way, we're not on Ustream anymore. We're at 1400 KVFD on YouTube. Actually, it's a much clearer picture. I don't know how great it is for you to see me sitting in here talking, or with Greg Hora, or with whoever. But we're on no longer on Ustream. We're on YouTube. 1400 KVFD. Not AM 1400, just 1400 KVFD. Okay? All right. 1400 KVFD. I think it's time that senator from Hawaii is apparently insane. Hirono, or Senator Hirono, she's the one who has told all men, addressing all men in the United States, she says it's time for us to shut up and step up. You hear that? Shut up, boys. You have nothing to say about the Supreme Court nomination. Just shut up. Well, I got to tell you, there's some Democratic wimpy liberal guys may like to be talked to that way, but not all men here in north central Iowa or the state of Iowa really get off on it that much. What do you mean, shut up and step up? This is an important issue. This is an important issue. Maybe we can get an associate justice on the court who will say something like, this is ridiculous. We should have a fight like this over a Supreme Court nomination. It appears the Supreme Court has too much power and authority. Maybe the Supreme Court shouldn't be deciding abortion or gay marriage or gun control or any of those things. Maybe they should read black letter law and stick to that, because that's really what the founders had in mind. That's really what the founders had in mind. In fact, for a reminder, I'll give you this Red Skelton interpretation of the Pledge of Allegiance again. Enjoy the Pledge of Allegiance while you can. Some judge somewhere will rule it unconstitutional. Here's Red.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer, I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher, Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose. And that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
We gave justices of the Supreme Court exactly the right to do that. In 1962, they banished school prayer. Never mind what the taxpayers of individual cities and counties and states wanted. The Warren Court found that prayer in school was discriminatory. Prayer in school showed some sort of favoritism to Christianity. So, the will of the people be damned. Never mind federalism or the concepts of federalism. We're here to make everything equal. That was behind the gay marriage decision, of course. And of course, if you extend the gay marriage decision, why not have marriage between human beings and animals? Really, you could. Under their reasoning, it would never happen. And by the way, the National Man-Boy Love Association has been working overtime since the Obergefell decision, using the same language of Justice Kennedy, telling us that relations between very young boys and grown men are a preference, and we should not interfere with them. And under Obergefell, or the reasoning behind it, they're probably right. 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
From tuning an engine to replacing a fuse, you can learn it all under the hood. Heard every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
He denies everything. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh calling the latest allegation of sexual misconduct against him ridiculous and from the Twilight Zone.
This third Kavanaugh accuser is named Julie Swetnick, who says she holds active security clearances, attended a different high school than Kavanaugh, and is represented by Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Michael Avenatti, who tweeted this declaration from her. Quote, in approximately 1982, I became the victim of one of these gang or train rapes where Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh were present.
Fox's Peter Doocy on Capitol Hill, where Kavanaugh is due before a Senate panel tomorrow. President Trump calling Avenatti a lowlife who's good at false allegations and suggesting again it's politics.
I think it's ridiculous. It's a con game that they're playing. The Democrats are playing this game that is disgraceful. It's a disgrace to the country.
Senate Democrats, meantime, slamming Republicans for not delaying the confirmation process. Meantime, Congress is up against a deadline to avoid a partial government shutdown. Fox's Jared Halpern, live on Capitol Hill.
When President Trump says the government will stay open, signaling he will sign a spending bill that's expected to win House approval today.
This funds our military. This funds opioids. This does a lot of the things that we all want to accomplish together.
House Speaker Paul Ryan says he's had good conversations with the president about the $854 billion bill that fully funds the Pentagon and health and education programs. It also extends funding for the rest of government beyond the midterm elections in early December, but does not fund a proposed southern border wall. President Trump has described that as ridiculous. Lisa.
Jared, now we know just how bad last flu season was. The government estimating 80,000 Americans died from flu and flu complications last winter. That's the highest number in at least 4 decades. A late sell-off on Wall Street, the Dow down 103 points at the bell. Fox News, fair and balanced.
When the need for senior care arises, there's no place like home. Your loved ones should never have to give up living at home. Visiting Angels will provide home care for your mom or dad at home up to 24 hours per day, including personal care, meals, and light housework. You'll select your professional caregiver with Visiting Angels. Look up visitingangels.com or call 877-374-LIVE. That's 877-374-LIVE. Franchises are available. Visiting Angels, America's choice in senior home care.
Noted author, former chief medical correspondent, and Salonpas user Dr. Bob Arnott.
The human body has billions of pain receptors. Block those receptors with the anesthetics found in Salonpas Lidocaine Plus, and you'll have relief. Salonpas Lidocaine Plus contains 2 anesthetics, including the maximum strength lidocaine available without a prescription. They numb aggravated nerves for effective, lasting relief. For relief, try what I use, Salonpas Lidocaine Plus.
In the silver box with the blue wave.
$10,000 rewards being offered for a North Carolina boy last seen last weekend.
Maddox Scott Rich is an autistic, nonverbal 6-year-old who has been missing since Saturday after reportedly running from adults at a park in Gastonia, North Carolina, just west of Charlotte.
Got a missing kid. He's missing. He's been missing probably the last 30, 40 minutes, hour maybe.
A park employee who called 911 for help.
Is the parents there?
Yeah, they're here. They're out looking for him.
The FBI continues to be involved in the search. Investigators have checked a landfill and a residence as part of the process. They're also looking to talk with a jogger and photographer said to have been in the park Saturday. In North Carolina, Chris Hoke, Fox News.
Flash flooding trapping people in homes and vehicles in North Alabama. Torrents of rain from a cold front moving through the state. Low-lying areas near Birmingham among those hardest hit, and forecasters say there could be a few more inches of rain before all is said and done. The Fed hikes its benchmark interest rate for the third time this year.
The Fed has been rolling back policies aimed at stimulating the economy since the financial crisis, raising rates 8 times since 2015, with one more increase penciled in for this year and 3 forecasts for 2019. And in a surprising twist, the Fed dropping its long-standing language from its statement, saying its monetary policy remains accommodative. By doing so, it may be signaling its resolve to keep raising rates. For consumers, this is both good news and bad news. An increase in rates will translate to a higher borrowing cost, while savers may earn more interest on their deposits.
Fox's Hillary Barsky. Well, the Fed chief was upbeat about the economy in a news conference after the rate hike, but he also sparked some renewed concern about the possible impact of ongoing trade disputes, and that's getting the blame for the late sell-off on Wall Street. Again, the Dow down more than 100 points at the closing bell. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News Radio.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Senator Chuck Grassley has asked a female prosecutor from Arizona to ask questions tomorrow of the woman who has accused U.S. Supreme Court nominee of a sexual assault. Radio Iowa's O.K. Henderson reports.
Grassley says Rachel Mitchell will ask questions of Christine Blasey Ford and of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh instead of having Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee do the questioning. Democrats on the committee will still be able to ask questions of the two witnesses. Grassley says Mitchell is an experienced sex crimes prosecutor who will depoliticize the hearing and get to the truth instead of, in Grassley's words, grandstanding and giving senators an opportunity to launch their presidential campaigns. Radio Iowa, I'm O.K. Henderson.
On Monday, DNR staff from Mason City investigated a manure spill about 4 miles southwest of Eagle Grove in Wright County. Overnight on Sunday, manure from a hog confinement owned by DMC Property Rentals LLC of Humboldt backed up into a building, then flowed into a ditch. An unknown amount of manure reached drainage ditch 49, which enters the Boone River about 1 mile downstream. Owner Mitch Christopher discovered the spill about 9 a.m. on Monday. He immediately stopped the release and built dams to contain manure on site. DNR's field tests in drainage ditch 49 showed normal ammonia levels. Staff did not find any dead fish in the ditch, but did find live fish downstream. The DNR will continue to monitor cleanup and consider appropriate enforcement action. This week, the U.S. imposed 10% tariffs on another $200 billion worth of Chinese goods, which was met with retaliatory tariffs on $60 billion worth of American goods. Kirk Leeds, president and CEO of the Iowa Soybean Association, says hope for a long-term solution to the trade war with China are fading.
It's clear that both the U.S. government and now the Chinese government even more so appear to be kind of laying in for a long battle here. And there's just very little reason right now to be optimistic about any short-term resolutions.
A study released Tuesday by Iowa State University estimates because of new tariffs, Iowa's soybean industry faces losses between $159 million and $891 million. Leeds says it's possible the situation will get worse before it gets better.
I've been saying for a long time that the story of 2018 is one thing, but the thing that most farmers ought to be more concerned about, and I think the country should be more concerned about, is what about 2019? And that's where it could really get serious.
According to research and data from the Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance, Fort Dodge has seen considerable amount of job growth in the last 5 to 10 years. Fort Dodge Growth Alliance Economic Development Director Kelly Halstead shared a report with the Fort Dodge City Council on Monday detailing the job growth in the region.
In the last 5 years, we've added 1,449 new jobs on a net basis. And then over the last 10-year, which I think is even more important period, that we have increased our wages in our region, in our county, by 24.5%. So we're creating jobs that are actually raising the wages that we have in our community.
Halstead said that the largest sector of the local economy is healthcare and social assistance at 16.4%, with retail trade at 13.5% and manufacturing at 12.4%. Dennis Plotz is the executive director of the Growth Alliance and says Fort Dodge is in a good spot.
I do think that Fort Dodge is extremely well positioned right now. If you look at the investments that have been made in Webster County in recent years, you're getting huge investments that can't be moved. They're using so many more indigenous materials And most importantly, they're companies that are worldwide and have access to the global markets.
This has been Alex Benzagala with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Clear skies this afternoon with a high of 64. West winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, lows around 49. High of 69, tomorrow cloudy. Turning much cooler Friday and Saturday with highs in the upper 50s. Showers both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 63.
The opinions and remarks expressed on this radio program by the host, guests, and call-in listeners are the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not reflect the views of management or ownership of KVFD AM 1400.
Iowa hog farmers have a lot to be proud of.
Proud of the quality products we put on tables around the world.
Proud of the strides we make to protect Iowa's natural resources.
Proud of the number of Iowans we're able to employ in safe workplaces.
Proud to protect and promote animal well-being in everything we do.
Iowa pork producers are proud because they do it right. And that's something all Iowans can take pride in.
Sponsored by Iowa's pork producers and their pork checkoff.
Iowa's pork producers work hard daily to produce safe, affordable food. Through the industry's We Care initiative, hog farmers are firmly committed to doing things right. That means keeping their pigs safe and healthy, safeguarding natural resources, protecting public health, and building strong communities. Producers fully understand the importance of pork quality, responsible production, and continuous improvement. It's the moral and ethical thing to do. Sponsored by Iowa's pork producers and their pork checkoff.
Congratulations to Good Samaritan Society Manson on their recent 5-star rating awarded by the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Good Samaritan Manson received a perfect 5-star rating for their outstanding health inspection results, staffing ratios, and quality of care. Their compassionate and dedicated team of employees sets them apart from other senior living centers in the area. To learn more, visit good-sam.com or drop by anytime. Good Samaritan Society Manson, when someone you care about needs caring for.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, or the Severe Weather Advisor. The Severe Weather Advisor is brought to you by Bruce Funeral Home and Cremation, Fort Dodge. You can count on Bruce Funeral Home and Cremation to help you plan a personal and lasting tribute to your loved one with care, comfort, and compassion. That's Bruce Funeral Home and Cremation, Fort Dodge, Community Health Center of Fort Dodge, providing quality health care for all, including medical, dental, and behavioral health. Make an appointment at their newly remodeled location in Fort Dodge, Community Health Center, and Creative Cakes in the Crossroads Mall, Fort Dodge, making life sweet with espresso, lunch, gourmet cupcakes, and other sweet treats. Stop in for something special today at Creative Cakes in the Crossroads Mall, Fort Dodge. They make life sweet. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
Local sweet corn, apples, pork, and more. The Iowa Farm to School program has a lot in store. Help us make lasting and nutritious changes in your local school's food.
If you're a grower or producer, you can become a vendor for your local school district.
Iowa Farm to School is growing into local school meals.
Let's grow together. Have your school taste the difference of local produce. Get involved today.
If you'd like to learn more and participate in providing your produce at local schools, visit iowalocalfoodday.org. That's iowalocalfoodday.org.
Divine Intervention at AM 1400 KVFD, where Fort Dodge talk.
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Michael Devine. A lot of people like that show. But because you need more than a newspaper.
Email, online, surfing the web, HTML, good buddy.
At AM 1400 KVFD.
So that's right. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. We're no longer on Ustream. We're on YouTube at 1400 KVFD. Or is it AM here? Yeah, I think it's 1400 KVFD. That's exactly right. Very clear picture. Yeah, you'll see Greg Hoare and I sitting in here. We're wiping our brows because it's so damn hot in this studio. I don't know what's the matter, but it's been that way all week. I go out in the hallway and it's just fine, but we come in here and it's a beautiful day outside. Greg, as you know.
Yes.
A perfect day, but my God, is it hot in here?
Being a pig farmer and all, and the things that we're supposed to do in our hog barns, I've been working in hog barns most of the day today, mid 60s, upper 60s, which is perfect weather inside there for those pigs. And I come into here and it's by 75, 78 degrees.
No, it's more
No, I'm
than
not
that.
complaining.
It's more than that.
Not
It's-
complaining.
It's probably 80 degrees in here.
Yeah. But hey, I just was driving into town and I heard you kind of getting on me about being fashionably late.
And you were.
Hey, I'm sitting here when you start. I'm glad to see you upgraded the camera for two guys like us that really need upgrades.
But see, Greg, you're on for an entire hour. If you pop in just before it's time to pop the microphone, I really don't have much of a chance to talk to you. And I love to talk to you, Greg.
Well, chances are you were jabbering about something else for the first hour. I have no idea. But could you tell me, Mike, what were you doing on June 15th, 1982? Come on. Guy like you got to know what you were doing that day.
I think I was.
Anybody could vouch for you there?
Brass Monkey, I think.
Yeah, I bet so. What a situation we have going on right now.
Awful.
But,
what a terrible. What has happened to our country? These people are just awful.
Well, you know me, and your listeners know me. I like to stay positive on things. I guess as a farmer, that's what we always look forward to. That's why we plant the seed and grow the crops. But to let you and your listeners know, it's probably one of the last times I'm going to be in here for a while at 3:00 in a fall day because of the harvest.
Sure.
And there's probably just a few people that are starting to do corn again this afternoon if they have well-tiled fields. We had that ½ inch to 1 inch of rain yesterday, depending on where you were. And our bean fields, we're getting a little bit concerned about keeping grain quality for our soybean fields because the ground is pretty wet and the conditions could be favorable for some off-colored seed and some maybe some diseases that might be setting in the seed. But so we're kind of concerned about that. But we are getting close to the 1st of October, and that's when we're supposed to be harvesting, and it's now happening.
And it's just a beautiful day today.
Yeah,
it really is. And I think we're going to have a few of them as we always do.
Yep.
I mean, there's oh my God, we're going to have too much of this or too much of that. It always rains around the Clay County Fair,
Yep.
Some people still refer to it as the Spencer Fair, but that's fine too.
Well, Elwyn Taylor with Iowa State University and the weather guru that he is, and a lot of the agriculture or farm people know of Elwyn. He has stated for the last couple of years that we're going into a period of time here, next 20, 25 years of more erratic type of weather. Mm-hmm. And whether you're a climate change believer or believe in cycles, Elwyn is one of those that believes in cycles, and that we tend to have more extreme rain events. And we sure have experienced that in northern Iowa, mostly north of Highway 3. In some locations within Webster County here, the west and northwest side and northeast side of Webster County has had more rain than the southern half of the county generally.
Really?
During this growing season. So we have to kind of expect that. And we know that down in the southeast part of the country, with the Hurricane Florence of a couple weeks ago, they're still dealing with flooding. From the agriculture side of things, we know there's been a lot of crops that have been lost. They had harvesting going on of cotton, corn, soybeans down there, and they were furiously trying to get to some of that before the heavy rains. But now when you have roads flooded out, and we do have to give a big appreciation to those that raise pigs in that part of the country. North Carolina is right in there at second largest state in the country raising pigs. They have a lot of processing and harvesting facilities down there, and really got along pretty good without too much flooding and too much loss of pigs. Actually, there was less than 3,000 head of pigs that were lost. And I don't know the size on those.
Couldn't they got those hogs out of there? They had plenty of time.
Yeah, that was the issue. But as you see, neighborhoods that were not anticipated of flooding were flooding 3, 4, 5, 7 days after the hurricane. And so I think that probably happened in some locations for hog buildings also, where they thought they were probably okay. But, then the water continued to rise. And that's where, a lot of the devastation has come, many days after the hurricane.
Boy, I think I'd have got those to the sale barn somehow.
Well, Mike, once again, I don't know the size of pigs. I
Yeah.
follow the ag news and
I saw some pictures. They look like 150, 200-pound pigs.
Yep, very well possible. And right now
At
there's
least the ones I saw.
and there's some bad flooding happening right now today down in some parts of Georgia and Alabama with some isolated heavy rainfalls. And, that's just what tends to happen. And we hear about that because it does make news. But, for the listeners in this area, we're right on the beginning of harvest here. Last week was actually National Farm Safety Week. And we encourage everybody that's out on the roads to pay attention to the farm equipment and the extra trucks that are going up and down the roads. And you had experience in that yourself, Mike, in trucking of ag products in the past. And,
sure.
And in this day and age when distracted drivers can really cause problems real quickly if you're not paying attention. And so we just ask that all those that are out on the roads pay attention to what's going on with the farm fields also.
Well, it would probably be a good time of the year for me to call public health at University of Iowa or even Iowa Central and talk about the danger of grain bins again. I mean, grain bins in and of themselves, if you're a problem, but it seems like we always have deaths every fall because somebody gets in the doggone bin. They're tired or they think they can just go down and kick this crust out or whatever. Next thing you know, they're in trouble and some guys die,
Well, and that has happened more. You think back 30, 40, 50 years ago, what was the peril on the farm? Well, that was corn pickers.
Yeah.
And, and I know of people that had got their hands caught or their arms caught or the legs caught in corn pickers.
Yeah.
And that was, and that was part of the safety that we need to continue to be vigilant on as farmers. But now as we've had more and more grain bins and sometimes we have less qualified or less experienced people that are helping in grain elevators or on farms. But I would tell you though, within the agriculture circles, farm safety is of utmost importance. We do the training with kids in school so they have awareness of what goes on in their farms, even though we have very few school children now that are raised on a farm, but they do tend to visit farms, or maybe they have grandparents that or uncles that farm. So that's a good heads up there that we continue to profess within agriculture circles about being vigilant on that from a farm safety within your own farm operation also.
Yeah. It probably is that time. I should get a hold of Iowa Central, somebody out there. I think Jeff, doggone, I forgot his name now.
Yeah.
Or no, Don and Jeff are brothers. I can't think of their names.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's real important too, and there's been the Farm Bureau organization and other farm organizations have been very helpful with local volunteer fire departments. For example, Badger and Vincent and Clare, Gowrie, they've all had the training in this area on grain bin eradication. And I know
grain bin eradication.
Yes. So if somebody gets caught, and actually from Badger, Don Ashenfelter.
Ashenfelter is the guy I was trying to think of.
Yep, Don. Don.
I do know.
I've known Don for a lot of years also. Don has done a tremendous job, not just training of volunteer firefighters and people that work in grain elevators in this part of the state, but in other parts of the state. I know he's been out to Sioux City area doing trainings, been clear over to Waterloo because they have a mobile unit for training. And it's one of those things like insurance. You hope you never have to use it.
Right.
But it's important to have people that are trained well on it because in that situation like that, time is always of the essence. And that does bring along more awareness. So we really uphold those people that are the volunteers in most of our small towns that help with those fire departments and that help with those type of situations that come about.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've learned a lot over the many years.
Yeah.
And we have much bigger equipment now.
Well, as we talk about the pig industry too, and I heard that was the other thing. I heard you jabbering about big pork. And we'll talk about big pork here in a little bit, but we have the same thing.
What was I saying about it?
Oh, I just talked about
said our future was with big pork.
It really is something, and I'll give you.
You can't describe Prestige Farms as little pork.
No. And I'll give you and your listeners an analogy a little bit as I thought about it as I was driving into town and listened to you before the top of the hour. But, as we start talking about worker safety, and I think that's one of the things that we've done in the pig industry and the cattle industry. with large animals that we have a lot of new workers coming into production agriculture, and we're talking about training and animal welfare. And as your listeners have heard me say on this station before, especially last week when we talked about my trip to Japan a lot and working with National Pork Board and U.S. Meat Export Federation, is that consumers want to know how their animals are being raised and how the pork and the beef is being processed.
That is a new thing, isn't it?
It really is. And that's something that I had an experience just yesterday speaking to a reporter from Japan who actually was here in Fort Dodge. And we spoke a lot about that. And she being from the Osaka and the Kyoto area of Japan, actually is where I was at 3 weeks ago. She was very well aware of that the Japanese consumers are wanting to have that information. So in my interview with her, we spoke a lot about that, from the animal welfare and the worker training and worker safety aspects that we currently utilize. But it's no different than what the trucking industry does, or the ethanol plants, CJ Bio out here, when they have safety programs. They wear hard hats, they wear steel-toed shoes, they wear gloves, they wear their personal protective equipment. We do that at grain co-ops. We do that at grain elevators that are doing the custom spraying. There's a lot of that worker safety that goes in so that we can have good workers, but we can also go home safely at night to your families.
Yeah. Oh, that's what everybody wants. That's for
Yeah.
sure. I hope that people aren't, when they want to know how their hogs are being raised, I hope they're not suggesting we get the pig's consent before we shoot them in the head and have pork chops.
Well, there's methods of doing it. And it's like the old
You never
adage
know,
about, hot dogs are really good to eat. You just don't want to see how they're made.
Oh, I'll tell you, I still love hot dogs, but
Yeah.
I will admit I got a job in a butcher shop when I was a kid for a short period of time. And part of my deal was to grind up everything else that wasn't used somewhere else.
Yep.
And then it was made into hot dogs. And I'll tell you,
Yep.
if you get too caught up as to what's in hot dogs, you don't want to think about it much. But
Yep. So, in this day and age, and as you mentioned, and I just made reference a little bit ago, so I follow up with your listeners about big pork. I heard that comment when I was driving in the southwest corner of Fort Dodge, which has been in the discussion lately because of the speed limit. I think you've spoke a little bit about that to your listeners, and maybe giving some of our elected officials a heads up on your attitude on reducing the speed for safety reasons.
I don't think I was the only one in that basket.
I know.
There.
But, the changes in the observation that I saw relate to your comment about big pork. And yes, the pork industry has changed a lot in the last 25 years. It's changed a lot in the last 5 years.
Sure.
And it's because of what my observation was on the southwest side of town, where there is another new convenience store going in right across from the Casey's by the college. And that convenience store is Quick Star. And we also have a new
got another Quick Star out there?
There's another new Quick Star on the southwest side of town there by the new stoplights, the four-way intersection there that was created. Just like over on the east side of town by Shimcat Motors and Baumgars, there's a new Quick Star there. And so we talk about changes of our community.
Sure.
And we talk about changes of retail. We also have had that with our school systems. We've built some new schools in this community because our existing buildings were 100 years old. And we now call, the new middle school or the upgraded high school. We've added new elementary schools 10 years ago on the south side of town, and just this year now on 7th Avenue North with the new Duncombe School. So we always look at making changes in society for the long term. And that's really what's happening with the pork industry. And I think maybe in this second hour of my time today, you and I will talk a little bit more about the report that just came out yesterday. And I have about the 30 pages of copy here. I've really not read myself, but it's the impact of trade and the retaliation with the tariffs that Iowa State University, the CARD, which is Center of Agriculture and Rural Development, they've just come out with the numbers, the impacts to the soybean farmers, the corn farmers, and the pork producers. Now, those are the major commodities that have had some retaliation. And as your listeners have maybe heard us talk about or heard others talk about, Steve Peterson, when he's on with us Farm Bureau Time on Tuesdays, we talk about a government assistance or government aid program because of the retaliation of tariffs and the lowering of prices. But I have to tell your listeners that we're getting very concerned as farmers right now that this last 3 months of 2018, if we have any resolve to these tariffs and the retaliation of corn tariffs and soybean and pork, it's going to not do too much for our markets. We have a lot of crop coming on, but really what we're concerned about is 2019.
Well, that's what Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau keeps telling me. When Steve comes in on Tuesday, he's been telling me for about 6 weeks now, we're growing a crop right now.
Yes.
But pretty soon we're going to start selling the crop or trying to. And what are we going to get for it?
Yep.
And that's in 2019.
Yep. And right now in the agriculture circles, in the communication and in the business planning, the word really is wherever you can find storage for your unsold bushels of corn or beans, you need to be finding storage. And in this part of the state of Iowa, we have a lot of co-ops that have grain storage in town, elevator storage, and there's a cost to that. And they are business operators also, so they want to garner as much money as that they can. And farmers, we're our own risk managers, so we have to make our decisions on what we do with that. But I think maybe in this second half of the hour that you and I talk after the break, we can talk more to your listeners about some of the numbers and the economic impact that Dermot Hayes and others at Iowa State University have come up with.
Boy, Greg came in prepared today, even knows when the breaks are. Okay, I'm going with it all the way. Greg Hoare has been our guest.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
Who cares what people say about you? We love you.
Michael Divine. A lot of people like that show, but because you need more than a newspaper.
Email, online, surfing the web, HTML, good buddy.
At AM 1400 KVFD.
It's 2:31.
Shouldn't your home be your own? Custom, one of a kind? Introducing Custom Fabric Design, exclusively from Budget Blinds. Now you're the designer. We'll help you pick a pattern that matches your style perfectly. Next, choose from every color in the rainbow. Then take your pick of 6 luxurious fabrics. Now we do the rest. Budget Blinds will turn your design into beautiful custom drapes and pillows just for you. That's Custom Fabric Design, only from Budget Blinds. When we say we have style and service for every budget, we really mean it. See for yourself. Call for a free consultation right at home. Call 855-BUDGET-BLINDS or go to budgetblinds.com. This is yours alone for your one-of-a-kind home. So call 855-BUDGET-BLINDS. Call 855-BUDGET Blinds now. At participating independently owned and operated franchises only. Ask for details.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagala with the KVFD Afternoon News. Senator Chuck Grassley has asked a female prosecutor from Arizona to ask questions tomorrow of the woman who has accused U.S. Supreme Court nominee of a sexual assault. Radio Iowa's O.K. Henderson reports.
Grassley says Rachel Mitchell will ask questions of Christine Blasey Ford and of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh instead of having Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee do the questioning. Democrats on the committee will still be able to ask questions of the two witnesses. Grassley says Mitchell is an experienced sex crimes prosecutor who will depoliticize the hearing and get to the truth instead of, in Grassley's words, grandstanding and giving senators an opportunity to launch their presidential campaigns. Radio Iowa, I'm O.K. Henderson.
On Monday, DNR staff from Mason City investigated a manure spill about 4 miles southwest of Eagle Grove in Wright County. Overnight on Sunday, manure from a hog confinement owned by DMC Property Rentals LLC of Humboldt backed up into a building, then flowed into a ditch. An unknown amount of manure reached drainage ditch 49, which enters the Boone River about 1 mile downstream. Owner Mitch Christopher discovered the spill about 9 a.m. on Monday. He immediately stopped the release and built dams to contain manure on site. DNR's field tests in drainage ditch 49 showed normal ammonia levels. Staff did not find any dead fish in the ditch, but did find live fish downstream. The DNR will continue to monitor cleanup and consider appropriate enforcement action. This week, the U.S. imposed 10% tariffs on another $200 billion worth of Chinese goods, which was met with retaliatory tariffs on $60 billion worth of American goods. Kirk Leeds, president and CEO of the Iowa Soybean Association, says hope for a long-term solution to the trade war with China are fading.
It's clear that both the U.S. government and now the Chinese government even more so appear to be kind of laying in for a long battle here. And there's just very little reason right now to be optimistic about any short-term resolutions.
A study released Tuesday by Iowa State University estimates because of new tariffs, Iowa's soybean industry faces losses between $159 million and $891 million. Leeds says it's possible the situation will get worse before it gets better.
I've been saying for a long time that the story of 2018 is one thing, but the thing that most farmers ought to be more concerned about, and I think the country should be more concerned about, is what about 2019? And that's where it could really get serious.
According to research and data from the Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance, Fort Dodge has seen considerable amount of job growth in the last 5 to 10 years. Fort Dodge Growth Alliance Economic Development Director Kelly Halstead shared a report with the Fort Dodge City Council on Monday detailing the job growth in the region.
In the last 5 years, we've added 1,449 new jobs on a net basis. And then over the last 10-year, which I think is even more important period, that we have increased our wages in our region, in our county, by 24.5%. So we're creating jobs that are actually raising the wages that we have in our community.
Halstead said that the largest sector of the local economy is healthcare and social assistance at 16.4%, with retail trade at 13.5% and manufacturing at 12.4%. Dennis Plotz is the executive director of the Growth Alliance and says Fort Dodge is in a good spot.
I do think that Fort Dodge is extremely well positioned right now. If you look at the investments that have been made in Webster County in recent years, you're getting huge investments that can't be moved. They're using so many more indigenous materials, and most importantly, they're companies that are worldwide, have access to global markets.
This has been Alex Benzagala with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Clear skies this afternoon with a high of 64. West winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies. Tonight, lows around 49. High of 69. Tomorrow, cloudy. Turning much cooler Friday and Saturday with highs in the upper 50s. Showers both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 63. Here's a look at how the markets closed today. December corn down 3/4 cent at 3.63. March down 3/4 at 3.75. May down a penny at 3.82.5, and July down a penny at 3.87 3/4. November soybeans up 4 1/4 at 8.50. January up 4 cents at 8.63 3/4. March beans closed up 3 3/4 at 8.76.5, and May up 3 3/4 at 8.89 3/4. December wheat down 3 1/4 cents at 5.17.5. Soybean meal up 1.50 a ton at 3.0770. October live cattle up 1.52 at 113.87. December up 1.65 at 118.85. September feeders up 42 cents at 157.05. October up $1.82 to 158.30. October lean hogs down 22 at 62.20. December down 52 at 57.22. I'm Dwayne Murley.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. I'm Michael Devine. It's 3:27.
What is bologna? I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. Bologna is a sausage and is made from the trimmings of pork and beef steaks and roasts. Much like hot dogs, the meat is ground and mixed with spices, put in casings, and cooked. Eric Mittenhall, president of the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council, says bologna is extremely versatile and well known.
Well, it's something we all grew up with. It's something that most of us have enjoyed bologna sandwiches as a child. I think in recent years, as people are looking for fresher products, bologna, the popularity has diminished a little bit. But I think, a lot of people don't really know that much about bologna and the different types that are out there and the variety of ways that it can be prepared. Even in developing the new guide that we put together, we weren't even aware of the bologna wrapped hot dog that's available in Baltimore. And we're the hot dog experts. We hadn't even heard of that before. But fried bologna sandwiches in Memphis, there's a lot of really unique ways that you can make bologna that chefs have really started getting behind as well. So, if you enjoyed it as a child and just think of it as a simple bologna sandwich, those are great, but there's almost a bologna renaissance that's on the verge of happening, we feel like, with some of the chefs behind it.
There are low sodium and flavored bolognas to choose from. It's high in protein like the meat it's made from. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
We're live on the red carpet, waiting for the next generation Credenz soybean. There he is.
Oh, Ed, look, it's Credenz Liberty Link GT27.
I know, Edna. He's got elite genetics.
You gotta love his 4 bushel per acre yield advantage.
And he's both Liberty and glyphosate herbicide tolerant.
Definitely the year's hottest performer. Ask your Credenz retailer about the new Credenz Liberty Link GT27 soybeans.
Grow smart with BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving.
This is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice for Dodge. It's 2:39, and it's 3:39. Hotter than hell in this studio. Beautiful day though, 63 degrees, about 83 in this room. Anyway, again, sunny today with a high of 64 and windy. Overnight mostly clear with a low of 50. Tomorrow mostly cloudy with a high of 67. On Friday, a chance of rain, otherwise sunny with a high of 57. Saturday, chance of rain, otherwise sunny with a high of 56. Yes, we're getting into fall. On Monday, a chance of showers with a high of 67. I jumped right over Sunday there, didn't I? Sunday, chance of rain with a high of 65 degrees. So typical fall weather, really. A flood warning remains in effect for all of the counties surrounding Webster County up to Kossuth County, as far away as Palo Alto County to the north and west, and bordering Story County to the south. So a lot of flood warnings out from now until 7 o'clock in the evening on Friday. So the river's pretty high. I know, talking with people around the area, that the rivers are running pretty fast. And especially up north, a lot of water's coming our way, and the rivers are really high up north. Anyway, obituaries this hour at AM 1400 KVFD are brought to us by Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 307 South 12th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-3156 or online at www.loftusfilerseaversfuneralhome.com. Tina Lloyd has died at the age of 34. There will be a celebration of the life of Tina Lloyd at 10:30 in the morning Saturday at Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home, with visitation for Tina Lloyd from 4 to 7 Friday at Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home, of course. Donald Junkman has died. Mr. Junkman's funeral was at 2 o'clock today at St. Olaf Lutheran Church. Donna Hovick has passed away. Services for Donna Hovick will be at 11 o'clock in the morning tomorrow at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, with visitation from 10 to 11 at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. Kim Humphrey has passed. Services for Kim Humphrey will be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow here in town. Obituaries this hour brought to us by Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 307 South 12th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Loftus Filer Seavers Funeral Home by calling 515-576-3156 or online at www.loftusfilerseaversfuneralhome.com. Greg Hoare, the pork producers, is in the studio, and we'll talk more with Greg in 90 seconds at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Tough as nails, nerves of steel. If you've come to test our metal, you better tighten up your chin strap. Get amped up for all the great iron action on the Panther Sports Network.
University of Northern Iowa Sports are brought to you on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, by Mitch Lund State Farm, Party Productions, The Other Store, and New Age Media. Catch UNI Sports right here on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
We're live on the red carpet, waiting for the next generation Credenz soybean. There he is.
Oh, Ed, look, it's Credenz Liberty Link GT27.
I know, Edna. He's got elite genetics.
You gotta love his 4 bushel per acre yield advantage.
And he's both Liberty and glyphosate herbicide tolerant.
Definitely the year's hottest performer. Ask your Credenz retailer about the new Credenz Liberty Link GT27 soybeans.
Grow smart with BASF. Always read and follow label directions.
Thrifty White Community Health Corner, your source for reliable health information. September marks the beginning of flu season and when the flu vaccine becomes available. It's important to get your flu shot early before flu activity begins to increase next month. An annual flu shot is the best way to protect yourself, your family, and those around you. Flu shots are now available at your local Thrifty White pharmacy. No appointment necessary. Walk-ins are always welcome.
Divine Intervention at AM 1400 KVFD, where Fort Dodge talk.
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Do you ever get tired of watching bad things happen to people?
Sticking up for you when no one else will.
Actually, I'm not blind in one eye. And I'm a little sensitive about my weight, so don't be calling me a fat guy. Greg Hoare is here at AM 1400 KVFD. I got this way joyfully from eating too much pork, but
Hey.
I'm not going to stop now.
As long as you feel healthy.
I feel great.
That's the key.
Actually, I've started to go down to the rec center 3-4 times a week.
Good.
And ride the bike and do some exercises, some
Yep.
weightlifting. And it has improved it's amazing how if you feel just a little bit better, it improves your attitude.
Mental health is important,
does,
isn't
yeah.
it?
It is.
Attitude.
It is,
Yeah.
and it's kind of my job to be cranky at times.
Yeah. Well, believe me, there is concern as we're talking about agriculture and coming on the time of the year with harvest. We always have some areas of the state that have difficulty with yields and with these lower prices that we now have. There's some real concern out there about the mental well-being and the financial well-being of some farm operations. So we just hope that everybody will reach out to someone if they need some help, not just mentally, but with financially on the farm operations, because we sure hate to see problems that are endured in families by irrational decisions that might be made.
Well, it is kind of a tricky time of the year. I got to get a hold of Ashenfelder, Don Ashenfelder at Iowa Central, and talk about grain bin safety.
Yeah.
Because I know he he used to. I'm assuming he still teaches at Iowa Central.
Yeah, he does. He works full time at one of the mines right now, but he does. Yeah, he does continue to do that training on the time schedules that he has available.
Okay. Well, yeah, he'd be a good one to have in and talk about that then.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were talking about what a surprise, pork production in the state of Iowa. Greg, of course, is president of the Iowa Pork Producers, and a farmer just south of town raises pork, corn, and soybeans. Have you started harvest yet or not?
Nope. I am just really ready to start, but like a lot of farmers, the fields, because of that rain we had last week, and then yesterday, some of the areas of this part of the state had a half inch to an inch and a quarter. And so we have some water standing in some areas.
We still do.
Yeah. And, we got equipment that can get out there and get the majority of fields, but there's a lot of soft spots. And then the thing that's important, and of course, now Supervisor Campbell has just come in the studio here also with us. But, we have to get these trucks and this grain hauled away from the field to the elevators or to our farms. And so we have to go on the roads. And so we always want to be a little bit aware of breaking down a driveways or taking too much mud out of fields onto highways or onto gravel roads. So that's just part of what we deal with. And so, no, I've waited a couple more days here, like a lot of farmers, as we try to dry some things out. But, as we talk about the pork production, and I know you mentioned that at the last hour, and we speak a little bit about the trade implications. And I had made reference that the Center of Agriculture and Rural Development, CARD, at Iowa State University has just released a study. And I'm not going to try to rehearse too many numbers over the radio because it's difficult for your listeners. But I would encourage your listeners to go look that up. CARD at Iowa State University, you'll see that. Dermot Hayes has done a lot of studies, and there's about 6 or 7 other authors that have done this also. But talking about the impact of lost market opportunities, not just to farmers, but to the economics of Iowa. And we just did hear in the news yesterday and today, the Revenue Estimating Conference, which is the 3-member board at the state of Iowa that talks about the tax receipts coming into the state of Iowa. Their receipts were a little bit higher as of June 30th, 2018 than anticipated, but we had some pretty favorable pricing of corn and soybeans in the month of April and May. And since May's high prices, we're off, and the report indicates this, we're off almost 20% in soybean prices. about 10 or 11% in corn prices, and in pig prices we're off about 15% also. So there's some real concerns there with regards to some potential lost revenue that comes in. And once we don't get the revenue as farmers from the marketplace, then we don't have as much money to spend elsewhere either.
Well, you gave me a list of card policy briefs. Now, we didn't get a chance to talk about exactly what they were because you were fashionably late. But
my time is at 3:10.
And you get here right at 3:09, Greg.
Yeah.
You're right on.
I mean,
but
we're
are
all
these
busy guys?
And these are papers from people, as you mentioned, Dermot Hayes, John Sespe, Wendong Zhang. These are people who are in the Department of Economics at Iowa State University, or agriculture and rural development policymakers. I mean, are these online? Are these accessible to the public?
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
And this report that's titled there on the top sheet that you have did come out yesterday. Actually, I just saw it last night when I was going through my emails. And there is a summarized version, and I brought in the 30 pages because I like to see some of its entirety, which I have not really even read yet. Only looked at highlights for those main commodities that we talk about here in North Central Iowa. But what's important to the listeners is to know that because of these tariffs, and yes, I, as a leader of the pork producers, along with a lot of other leaders of commodity organizations and businesses in Iowa, we're all discussing the potential lost income because of the retaliation of tariffs that have put on our products that go overseas, be that to Mexico, Canada, Japan, specifically China is the big one for pork and soybeans.
Well, let's talk about the Trump bailout just for a couple of minutes. And we talked about it last week.
Yeah.
Most of that money, the $12 billion, is going to soybean producers, from what I understand.
Well, to let your listeners know, once again, there was a 3-tier program.
Right.
And direct farmer payments was one of the 3 tiers. The other 2 tiers, I particularly favor more assistance and more utilization of. Number 1 was the emphasis of increasing trade and tariffs, or increasing trade and creating new markets, putting $3 to $4 billion into new markets and continuing to maintain the existing markets. So that was a major component that our U.S. Feed Grains Council, that works with the grain sales around the world, and the U.S. Meat Export Federation, that works with 14 locations around the world in selling pork, beef, lamb, dairy products, poultry products. So those are some important areas of that tier. The other,
you've talked in the past about emerging markets or new markets.
Yeah.
Where are those new markets that you're looking?
Yeah, good question. Well, for the pork industry right now, we sell to about 100 countries around the world pork. However, the top 20 countries that we sell pork to takes about 90% of those pork sales, the top 20.
Right.
Those are the countries that have an appetite for U.S. pork and beef. Those are the countries that have the financial means. Because if you don't have credit and you're not able to pay for the products, and remember, we're not selling pork as the state of Iowa. It's individual businesses like Prestige Foods,
I understand,
Smithfield's, those types of companies that are selling, or exporters. I've been on trade mission trips to a number of countries with exporters that live and have their businesses here in Iowa, and they procure meat in Iowa and they sell it to, for example, Mexico or Japan or South Korea. So it's individuals and businesses that actually are doing this. But answering your question, new and emerging markets is because transportation and infrastructure has been built up around the world to move our food products in a safe and reliable and quick method. And people and the economies around the world are desiring more U.S. food products. And we
specifically pork, or
pork is one of the key items right now because, as I've mentioned, and we do have October Pork Month coming up here. Give a little shameless plug on that to our retailers that are our pork partners in selling pork to the consumers here, not just in Iowa, but around the country. But, we've built up an infrastructure of pork production system in the United States where the U.S. consumers can only consume about 75% of our pork that is raised in this country. So we have cold storage facilities that are large amounts of meat supplies on hand. And part of this trade and disputes that we're having right now, we're getting a backlog of some of our pork supplies because we have countries like China not buying as much. We're thankful that countries like South Korea are up over 60% compared to a year ago in their purchasing of pork. Number one, we don't have tariffs in some of these countries, and our prices right now are relatively low. So it's a great value for countries to be buying pork and beef from the United States. But we are a least cost producer in the United States of pork. So that means that all other countries around the world that raise pork for export, it's a higher price at the farm gate price in those countries than it is the United States.
So if we're already exporting pork to 100 countries, I think there's about 180 countries in the world. In other words, we're exporting to more than half already. So we're doing okay.
Yeah. And like I indicated just a little bit ago, the top 20 countries purchase, 80 to 90% of that amount of pork, depending on a given year.
I'm not trying to play Trivial Pursuit with
Yeah.
you here, Greg.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the top 5? China would have
Absolutely. I've spoke about it quite often. Right now, the number one in volume is Mexico. And we still do
The
have.
number one in volume is Mexico.
Is
They're
Mexico.
bigger than China. I'm surprised.
Absolutely. The number one in volume is Mexico because of close proximity. And as I've shared on this station before, 5 years ago when I was in Mexico, I saw the infrastructure of roads. I saw the cold storage facilities, the trucking facilities, the processing facilities, and the need to have their consumers, their people, eat better protein. And so the business community in Mexico is really geared up for bringing in more pork because that's a least cost protein that their consumers demand. Even though we have a 20% tariff on some pork products right now into Mexico, the price of pork is low, so they're still buying. To answer your question, South Korea is also right in there for volume. 60 million people live in South Korea, and they bring in about 60% of all their beef and pork needs from other countries. European Union actually takes in more than the United States to South Korea. But the number one in value, and I spoke about this last week, was Japan. And Japan
By value now, what do you mean?
They spend the most dollars.
They spend the most dollars. Okay.
Yeah. So we have volume, which is
Volume is
maybe
Mexico.
a box of pork shoulders will be worth $100, but a box of pork loins going into Japan will be worth $125.
Okay.
So the value of higher cuts of meat, the Japanese consumer and the Japanese retailers utilize that. So that last year was about a $1.4 billion industry of selling pork into Japan. And
$1 billion just in Japan.
1.4 billion to Japan. So you can see how critical that is. And Mexico was just a little over 1 billion. And when we talk about what does that mean to Iowa, well, about 20% of all of the pork raised in Iowa is actually exported to foreign countries. And we talk about U.S. pork industry, where there is about 26% of all U.S. pork goes overseas, but we can claim here in Iowa and about 20%. So, it's a big deal when we have these tariffs in place. And as your listeners have heard me say, it makes a difference all the way down to the farm gate level. And as Supervisor Campbell is going to jump on here real soon with you, he knows as well as I do in the farm community, if farmers don't have as much money, we're not spending that money in our communities, we're not making improvements, and we're not rolling over those dollars in the economy. So that does make a difference also.
I wish somebody would say that about radio people every now and then. Well, if those radio people don't have a lot of money, they're not spending it in their community.
Well, and I've complimented your station here and other medias for putting on shows where agriculture companies come in and pay booth space or pay commercial rates for radio, for example. And, if those businesses like Hog Slat, for example, are making money, then they're going to be continuing to help sponsor things, not just with advertising, but also with philanthropy.
This is a little inside baseball as far as the radio business is concerned, but we had all kinds of ag advertisers in the 1980s. Then we ran into the farm crash.
Yes.
And chemical companies disappeared. Seed cord companies disappeared. Implement dealers disappeared. It was a rough, and a lot of them never came back.
And we're a little concerned about that happening right now in the larger picture of agriculture because, we can farm more efficiently now with bigger equipment, more technology in our equipment. We're increasing our production of corn and soybeans on a per acre basis because of science, technology, innovations that we have spoke about. But we do not have as many farm families out there. We don't have as many farm equipment businesses out there.
No, we had that big John Deere dealership across from the Starlight. I can't remember who the guy that had it now. Do you remember that or not?
Well, when I came here in 1985, there was a John Deere dealership there on the corner, which is Woodruff Construction now, and there was a Case IH dealership out there. Where I had bought some of my first equipment in the mid 80s, and then that consolidated like a lot of other industries consolidate and change. But we do know that from corn and soybeans, they're always going to be, farmed, those acres, except conservation reserve acres, they're going to be producing. And we see that in the pig industry right now. And we know that there's buildings that are being built right now, just like the housing being built in Fort Dodge. It's gearing up for the future, and hopefully that does bode well for the economics of the area.
Oh, well, we're getting the housing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that the housing developments are going up. And apparently they're selling pretty well.
Yeah. Well, everybody likes to step up. We've seen that in the farm economy was good. We stepped up with equipment. We see that with housing. When housing is strong, people step up in housing.
Greg Hoare has been our guest in this portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Pork Producers. Thank you, Greg. Mark Campbell is next. This is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice of Fort Dodge.
For exciting Panther sports, keep it right here on your home for University of Northern Iowa sports in North Central Iowa. The voice of Fort Dodge, KVFD, Fort Dodge.
The Supreme Court nominee says he's not perfect. Lisa Brady, Fox News. But he also says he's never sexually assaulted anyone in prepared testimony for a Senate hearing tomorrow. And he's denying new allegations today from a third accuser as President Trump again defends his nominee. Fox's John Decker live at the White House.
The president criticizing the timing of this latest accusation being made against Judge Kavanaugh, in which a woman claims that Kavanaugh was present at a gang rape during a high school party more than 3 decades ago.
It's disgraceful. It's a disgrace to the country. And I think you're going to see it in the midterms. I think people are wise to it. It's just a con game.
Kavanaugh in a statement saying, "I don't know who this is, and this never happened." Meanwhile, with the latest accusation, all 10 Democrats who serve on the Judiciary Committee calling on the president to either immediately withdraw the Kavanaugh nomination or direct the FBI to reopen its background investigation. Lisa?
In the meantime, John, the president just beginning a news conference in New York after wrapping up meetings with other world leaders, accusing China at the UN today of attempted election meddling, suggesting they're running ads that look like editorials targeting farmers in the Midwest because they're upset about his tough stance on trade, which China denies. Fed Chief Jay Powell acknowledging the potential impacts of ongoing trade disputes with China and others. That prompted a late sell-off on Wall Street. Overall, though, Powell was upbeat about the economy.
An economy where unemployment remains in the high and middle threes throughout the entire forecast period, and inflation remains very close to 2%. That is what the forecast shows.
He spoke after the third Fed rate hike of the year. One more is still expected. Officials in San Francisco just confirming more cracks in support beams at the $2 billion downtown transit terminal that just opened last month. It's been shut down temporarily now as inspections continue. Fox News, fair and balanced.
When the need for senior care arises, there's no place like home. Your loved ones should never have to give up living at home. Visiting Angels will provide home care for your mom or dad at home up to 24 hours per day, including personal care, meals, and light housework. You'll select your professional caregiver with Visiting Angels. Look up visitingangels.com or call 877-374-LIVE. That's 877-374-LIVE. Franchises are available. Visiting Angels, America's choice in senior home care.
Renowned medical correspondent and endurance race champion, Bob Arnott, MD.
People ask me, how do you keep competing at the age of 70? Healthy living is important, but so is pain relief. If you have pain, you can't train. So I'm thrilled I discovered Salonpas Lidocaine Plus. This unique topical pain reliever contains 2 safe and effective anesthetics. Nothing has worked better for me.
Salonpas Lidocaine Plus, cream or roll-on.
Flood misery isn't over yet in the Carolinas.
Hurricane Florence rained down a lot of water in the Carolinas, and now the Petey River Basin in South Carolina is once again flooding, especially in Georgetown County between Charleston and Myrtle Beach.
All 3 river systems were flooded, not only from the water from South Carolina, but that it came in the second wave from North Carolina.
South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster. The county began ordering evacuations for likely tens of thousands of people. Many of the rivers should crest today, but they'll need to recede next. Eben Brown, Fox News.
Heavy rain causing flash flooding in northern Alabama and eastern Tennessee, trapping some residents in homes and cars. And forecasters warn several more inches of rain are possible. Meantime, Kirk making a comeback, turning back into a tropical storm in the western Atlantic, with warnings up from Barbados to Guadeloupe. Kirk could move into the eastern Caribbean Sea by Friday morning. The U.S. divorce rate dropping 18% from 2008 to 2016 in a new study conducted by the University of Maryland.
Researchers say millennials and Generation Xers are waiting until they are older and more financially sound before settling down, as opposed to baby boomers who continue to divorce at unusually high rates. Bowling Green's National Center for Family and Marriage Research says from 1990 to 2015, the divorce rate doubled for folks between the ages of 55 and 64 and tripled for those 65 and older. University of Maryland sociology professor Philip Cohen says one of the reasons for the decline is that the married population is getting older and more highly educated, adding couples are waiting until they are more economically stable to marry.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin. The U.S. House voting now on a package of spending bills designed to fund the Pentagon and avoid a partial government shutdown. Elise Brady, Fox News Radio.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagal with the KVFD Afternoon News. Senator Chuck Grassley has asked a female prosecutor from Arizona to ask questions tomorrow of the woman who has accused U.S. Supreme Court nominee of a sexual assault. Radio Iowa's O.K. Henderson reports.
Grassley says Rachel Mitchell will ask questions of Christine Blasey Ford and of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh instead of having Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee do the questioning. Democrats on the committee will still be able to ask questions of the 2 witnesses. Grassley says Mitchell is an experienced sex crimes prosecutor who will depoliticize the hearing and get to the truth instead of, in Grassley's words, grandstanding and giving senators an opportunity to launch their presidential campaigns. Radio Iowa, I'm O.K. Henderson.
On Monday, DNR staff from Mason City investigated a manure spill about 4 miles southwest of Eagle Grove in Wright County. Overnight on Sunday, manure from a hog confinement owned by DMC Property Rentals LLC of Humboldt backed up into a building, then flowed into a ditch. An unknown amount of manure reached drainage ditch 49, which enters the Boone River about 1 mile downstream. Owner Mitch Christopher discovered the spill about 9 a.m. on Monday. He immediately stopped the release and built dams to contain manure on site. DNR's field tests in drainage ditch 49 showed normal ammonia levels. Staff did not find any dead fish in the ditch, but did find live fish downstream. The DNR will continue to monitor cleanup and consider appropriate enforcement action. This week, the U.S. imposed 10% tariffs on another $200 billion worth of Chinese goods, which was met with retaliatory tariffs on $60 billion worth of American goods. Kirk Leeds, president and CEO of the Iowa Soybean Association, says hope for a long-term solution to the trade war with China are fading.
It's clear that both the U.S. government and now the Chinese government even more so appear to be kind of laying in for a long battle here. And there's just very little reason right now to be optimistic about any short-term resolutions.
A study released Tuesday by Iowa State University estimates because of new tariffs, Iowa's soybean industry faces losses between $159 million and $891 million. Leeds says it's possible the situation will get worse before it gets better.
I've been saying for a long time that the story of 2018 is one thing, but the thing that most farmers ought to be more concerned about, and I think the country should be more concerned about, is what about 2019? And that's where it could really get serious.
According to research and data from the Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance, Fort Dodge has seen considerable amount of job growth in the last 5 to 10 years. Fort Dodge Growth Alliance Economic Development Director Kelly Halstead shared a report with the Fort Dodge City Council on Monday detailing the job growth in the region.
In the last 5 years, we've added 1,449 new jobs on a net basis. And then over the last 10 year, which I think is even more important period, that we have increased our wages in our region, in our county, by 24.5%. So we're creating jobs that are actually raising the wages that we have in our community.
Halstead said that the largest sector of the local economy is healthcare and social assistance at 16.4%, with retail trade at 13.5% and manufacturing at 12.4%. Dennis Plotz is the executive director of the Growth Alliance and says Fort Dodge is in a good spot.
I do think that Fort Dodge is extremely well positioned right now. If you look at the investments that have been made in Webster County in recent years, you're getting huge investments that can't be moved. They're using so many more indigenous materials, and most importantly, they're companies that are worldwide, have access to the global markets.
This has been Alex Benzagala with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Clear skies this afternoon with a high of 64. West winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies. Tonight, lows around 49. High of 69. Tomorrow, cloudy. Turning much cooler Friday and Saturday with highs in the upper 50s. Showers both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 64.
The opinions and remarks expressed on this radio program by the host, guests, and call-in listeners are the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not reflect the views of management or ownership of KVFD AM 1400.
Have the talk of the lifetime with the ones you love and make the difference of a lifetime.
Grandma, this card asks, what's your favorite family tradition?
Christmas would be my favorite. You know how we use the special tablecloth and all the fancy dishes?
And those cookies you always make.
Should we whip up a batch and bake some together now?
Sharing stories and memories with those who matter most isn't just important today. It will be especially significant when it's time to honor a life lived. Contact Gunderson Funeral Home to learn more about having the talk of a lifetime.
Divine Intervention at AM 1400 KVFD, where Fort Dodge talks.
You don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right, and I'm here with Webster County Supervisor Mark Campbell. How are you, Mark?
Good, sir. How are you?
I'm real good. You'll rarely hear me say this, ladies and gentlemen, but the Fort Dodge Messenger did a pretty good job this morning.
It's a great article.
It is. Mental health it was the topic, and I'm kind of a mental health advocate because I never know when I'm going to go to pieces. So I would like mental health treatment, decent mental health treatment in our area.
Mm-hmm.
And this article, and it was an in-depth piece by the Fort Dodge Messenger this morning.
Joe Suter, I think.
Yeah, Joe did a hell of a job.
Joe
did a hell of a job.
He does.
It talked about the problems we're having. First of all, we're part of a 22 county, and I didn't even know this. I should say I was reminded by the article that we're part of a 22 county group that deals with mental health. Can you kind of explain how that works?
Yep. The state went to mental health regions a few years ago, and we ended up in a region that goes north and east. And yes, it is one of the largest regions in the state of 22 counties.
I was going to say, we're in with Mason City in
yeah.
Saragota County, and that's right around 100 miles from us.
We go all the way over to Allamakee, Clayton, Fayette.
Allamakee. Yes. That's Waukon. Is that where that is over there?
So,
that's over there.
So there are some changes going on in these regions. There are some people, some counties in our region that are looking at going other places. We did get a formal notification that Cerro Gordo County is going to look to leave and go to another region. Cerro Gordo gave formal notice yesterday. I think all notices have to be in by November 1st. And Cerro Gordo reached out to our representative, which is Supervisor Thode, and assured him that they would work with us during that transition. This morning, Story County Supervisor Chairman Rick Sanders called and personally said that he would work with us through this transition. We don't know where we will go at this time, or if we will. I mean, we have the option of possibly staying, or we have the option of looking at 3 other regions. So it is a process. Nobody, I mean, we need to reassure everybody that during this process, nobody's going to go without mental health services. The state has a very good safety net in that respect.
Do you really think that, Mark? Because I've had problems with what the state's been doing with mental health. I have really thought the state of Iowa has failed its people when it comes to mental
it's
health.
changing. And the challenges are, as we were informed yesterday, is our region does it different than the next region to the west of us and to the region to the east of us. You know, we go north. So somebody over in Webster City could be getting different services than they are in Webster County. And that's challenging because maybe you need a certain service that we can't provide you. So we're very, very fortunate in the respects that we have Unity Point Berry Hill here, who has really picked up the ball and helped us in a lot of cases where we have not had services available.
I was involved with a mental health situation a couple of years ago with a friend of mine, and he needed inpatient care. You know, we couldn't get it in Fort Dodge. We couldn't even get it in Des Moines. I mean, we couldn't get it in the city of Des Moines. Further, I know of a young Marine who university educated, combat veteran 2 times. I've told this story on the program before. Was seeking mental health treatment. Apparently, he was in a provider's office down at the VA center in Des Moines. Became agitated, threw some chairs. They called Des Moines police, put him in jail. While he was in jail, he begged for treatment. He wanted to go to the hospital. He wanted to be committed. The police called all over town and couldn't find him a bed. They released him. Now, combat veteran, knows how to use automatic weapons. And we wonder why we have these mass shootings sometimes. That's unacceptable. Do we really have adequate mental health treatment?
You know, it's challenging. There are so many people that come into our general relief, to our public health, asking for help. And, you know, there are limited funds out there. I understand that. But it's what we do with those funds. I mean, our regions, I do believe, are working diligently to provide the best services possible. But it's trying to find these crisis centers and get them set up so there are beds available. It's trying to find places for people to go when they need those services, because unfortunately they don't need them always 9 to 5. It's after hours.
Oh, absolutely.
And to locate those places after hours is very challenging. So then you have to find a place, and it could be in eastern Iowa. We have to transport them there. You know, our Sheriff Stubbs has been very good about doing that and accommodating and doing those things. But is that what our deputies should be doing? You know, it's not a law enforcement issue. Somebody truly wants help.
Yeah.
So we've got to figure out a way to do it. So at least with our case, we are trying to be proactive in the respects to look at the other regions, see what's out there. We're going to see what services are available in these other regions that are comparable to what we're doing, and see if what services we may lose because we go to another region.
I think mental health is picking up speed here in the state of Iowa, and I would look to the Sunday edition of the Des Moines Register, where they had a very long piece as well about the lack of mental health treatment available in the state of Iowa. And the Messenger picked it up today, and again, they did a pretty good job.
Joe did a great job.
But this has been something I think has been ignored, or perhaps not given the attention it needs for quite some time. Is lack of funding. I mean, do we need to spend more money? Do we need to find more money? I'm not somebody who believes money is the solution to everything, but it doesn't seem, and correct me, it doesn't seem as we have someone who needs emergency mental health care that's sending them 2.5 hours across the state at our expense, tying up a deputy sheriff, and then paying for the person's treatment and institutionalization in another county is cost effective.
Correct. And I don't know if it's money, Mike, either. I think it's accessibility.
Okay.
It doesn't do us any good to spend a bunch of money and build a huge facility in eastern Iowa when we have people in western Iowa that need services. I think, you know, the idea of these crisis centers will help, but it's, you know, it's progress. And we didn't get this way overnight. We know that, but nobody's paid attention to this for quite a while.
Right.
And now it's rising to the top. You know, it's a hot button issue, and a lot of people are starting to look at it because of instances just like what you said about that Marine that needed help. So it's going to be, you know, a battle.
Yeah.
But we've got a lot of good people that I think have good heads on their shoulders that are going to make some tough decisions here in the near future, and we'll figure out where we're going to go.
So we break out of this 22 county group. we're down to, and we get into a 6-county group. I know that there was I think Supervisor Thode was quoted in the papers wanting to stay in the same group as Humboldt and Pocahontas County and Hamilton County. And there is a state law that these groups have to be contiguous. In other words, they have to touch.
Correct.
The counties all have to be within physical closeness to each other, which makes sense, of course. Mason City sounded like they wanted to stay with us.
Mason City. So to the east of us, Hamilton, Hardin, Franklin are all part of, I believe it's Central Iowa Services is what it's called. And, if we went with them, Cerro Gordo would go with them, I think is what's going to happen. We'd still be part of them. Supervisor Thode is, he works with a quadrant, which is currently Wright, Humboldt, Pocahontas, and Webster. And he would like to see that stay together. However, we have no control over that. Realistically, Supervisor Leffler had a very good comment. We'd really like to work together, but when it ultimately comes down to it, we've got to do what is best for Webster. In the same picture, Pocahontas, Wright, and Humboldt, they've got to do what's best for them.
Of course, everybody does.
We are. And if we can do that together, great. All the better for everybody. If it comes down to it that Central Iowa says, hey, we'll take Webster, Rolling Hills wants Pocahontas and Harding, we'll work with them to make that work. We're still all one Northwest Iowa. We've got to work together. Just because we have geographical boundaries doesn't mean, Mike, because you live over in Calhoun County and you come to Webster, Unity Point, Berry Hill, need some help, they're going to send you away.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Let's have a hypothetical situation. Somebody has a crisis, a mental health crisis, and they need to be admitted in Fort Dodge. Can they be?
We are absolutely one of the most fortunate, blessed places to have Unity Point, Berry Hill. I can personally tell you.
They do have beds there where people can stay and be treated.
In my case, we didn't need a bed for a person. We needed somebody to be seen and somebody to get treated and somebody to sit and talk to a doctor and work through. And Berry Hill stepped up and did that. It was somebody from outside of our region, but they had relatives here in Webster County and brought them to Unity Point, Berry Hill. And I cannot say enough about what they did. They went above and beyond. They sat down with them. They worked through it. I don't know if they ultimately ended up getting them a bed or how that worked out. I was out of the picture by then, but I can tell you they were amazing.
Do we have a treatment facility for mental health here in Webster County anywhere?
Oh, Lordy. Unity Point, Berry Hill is the only one I know.
Yeah. Well, whatever you want to say about the Berry Hills, they always try to do the Christian thing. I mean, they do. I understand, but we have a need, and our area is about to undergo a big change.
Yes.
And that need can only increase. And again, I worry about the funding for these things. I know money's always tight. I understand. And again, please believe me, I'm not somebody who believes let's throw money at it. But sometimes things cost money.
We're fortunate, though, when you look at the access that we do have, whether it be public health, whether it be across the street from you, community health, Unity Point, Berry Hill, and then all the nonprofits we have here. We're fortunate we have them here that work together because you get 100 miles from here or 200 miles from here, it gets pretty scarce out there. What options are available?
Well, I've heard that on Eastern Iowa Talk Radio before. The attitude over there is let's not spend any money in Western Iowa because nobody lives there. Well, I have a clue for you here. Yes, they do, and they have needs as well. And we have we have an elderly population, and we have especially in Western Iowa, especially to the north and west of us. I believe these figures are dated, and maybe I mentioned to you before, but Calhoun County and Pocahontas County had the oldest people in their county per capita than anywhere in the world. Or excuse me, they had the more people per capita over the age of 65 than anywhere in the world.
Really?
Pocahontas and Calhoun, yeah. I think that was on Des Moines radio station several years ago. But it wouldn't surprise me. Those counties are older counties. I mean,
I think you're going to see a lot of conversation coming up with this. I know we're planning a workshop in a couple of weeks to kind of look and start weighing our options. Obviously, it is, at the forefront of everybody's conversation. So, yeah. And we'll keep you and Joe Suter at the meeting. So you guys keep getting the word out.
Yeah. Yeah, my hat's off to Suter this
He
time.
did a hell of a job.
Yeah, I think he really did a pretty good job, and I hope that piece in our conversations and whatever conversations I have to have with mental health professionals or political people, especially as we head into this November's election, I'm going to put this on my list of questions to ask my political people who will show up.
Are you going to, I had a friend of mine ask me the other day, do you do forums on here? Are you going to have the candidates come in and talk? Because I think when I ran, you did.
I am going to have the candidates in individually.
Oh.
I won't have them and their opponents here. I don't believe, unless, if the Republican candidates, Senator Kreinbrink, Representative Sexton, and their opponents, I believe John O'Brien, and I don't know Representative Sexton's opponent's name over in Calhoun County, I'm sorry to say, and Ann Meyer and Dr. Shariva.
Megan, yeah.
Yeah, Dr.
I think it would be-
I call her Dr. Megan because I get in trouble with her last name. It's my fault. I'm sorry.
It would be a great opportunity. The one thing people don't realize is even when we do have an opponent, 9 times out of 10, we're good friends and we know each other.
Yeah.
And just because we're running against each other, don't mean we dislike each other. So I think it would be an opportunity for you to bring people in, let people call in, maybe do a primetime show, and actually let some of the candidates talk in the evenings and everything. Because when you go to the forums, the questions are the same ones every single year. And the people that are
I don't like that forum either.
So I would love to see you do something like that. I think it's a great opportunity.
You should be in sales. You've talked me into it. Here's what's going to happen. Here's my offer, ladies and gentlemen, all political candidates, please pay attention. If you're on the ballot in November, whether you are a Democrat or a Republican is irrelevant. But certainly to all the Democratic and Republican candidates and all qualified candidates, qualified, by qualified, I mean you're on the ballot in November, and I don't mean write in. I invite you to a forum with an open debate with you and your opponent. We'll have some questions that you can agree on, and you must agree to allow questions from the public by phone. I can have it in the afternoon or I can have it in the evening. I'll put in the extra time. I think it's, this is a good idea. This is an outstanding opportunity for public service with this radio station. This is the radio station. It's a local radio station, whether you can like me or not like me, but we will cover what's happening in our area. So if that's of interest to any of you, I'm here. You know how to get a hold of me. My email address is out there. Go to our website. I'm there. If all the candidates don't want to do it, fine. If 2 candidates want to do it, fine. 4, 6, 8. I don't care. And we can have it again in the afternoon or in the evening. Okay? 515-955-1400 if you'd like to sign up on that. I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a huge opportunity. The other thing I want to make sure everybody, and Greg touched on it, it's harvest. Please, if you are out on gravel roads or even out on the highways, there's a lot of extra equipment out there going a whole lot slower than you are.
Yeah.
Please take the time, give the courtesy to these truckers, farmers. They're out there hauling in their crops and grains. This coming weekend is Flu Shots Drive-Through Clinic. Public Health will be hosting it from 9 to 11, and again October 3rd from 5 to 7. And the other big article in the paper, I don't think we can thank enough Dean Henderson and his wife Sharon, their cooperation with this land. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to put this boat landing in Kalo. It's been a long time.
That looked really cool.
Oh,
that looked really cool.
The Hendersons are an amazing family, and Matt Cosgrove. I can't say enough about conservation. Their projects that they do for us are just absolutely amazing. Tomorrow night is the ribbon cutting at Camp Winoki. I hope you can make it. Please come out. Absolutely beautiful place. A lodge was built there. They do have 1 cabin built there. If you want to get away for a weekend, our Webster County Conservation has a cabin out there. No power, fire for heat. Oh, actually, I take that back. They put solar panels on, so you have limited power. Outhouse. But if you want to get primitive for a weekend, get back to nature, get away from everything, come on out, contact Conservation and rent that cabin. Overlooks the Des Moines River. It's absolutely beautiful.
I bet it is. How much does that cost?
I don't.
It's all right. It's okay. Do you have a number that a person could call?
I will have a number here in just a minute. Second.
By the way,
rental rates is $50 a night. The cabin holds 6 people. Reservations can be made up to 2 years in advance. 2-night minimum for weekend, 3-night minimum for holidays. Camping reservations must be at least 3 days in advance of the arrival date. And they are absolutely beautiful. 14 by 24 cabins, what a great opportunity just to get away.
That's very reasonable.
It
Very
is.
reasonable. Very reasonable. I think I'll take advantage of that myself. Probably not in January, but probably not in January. But I forgot to ask this, and we're almost out of time. If you do have a question or comment for Supervisor Campbell, 515-955-1400. I have a question, Supervisor Campbell.
Sure.
Are you done with bike night yet, or
We
not?
are.
Oh,
Last week was
bummer.
the last one
Oh,
for this year. We'll be back next year. And we'll be, it was a great summer. I left a little bit ago to come here. The patio was quite packed with people sitting out there watching the river. It's a beautiful fall day.
Yeah, it is a very,
It really
very
is.
beautiful day.
Saw some farmer friends of mine out in the field, and it was a little bit of a wet mess, but they're out there. So, yeah.
I again would like to offer to all political candidates and their opponents, we could have an hour or 2 hour forum on this radio station. We could have it in the afternoon or in the evening, and we will agree on questions. But you also must agree to allow people to call in and ask you questions. Ask the public. That's something to do at forum where those script. I just don't like that where they hand out pieces of paper. It's a way for the people to control the meeting. I understand, but it's overly controlled that way. So if anybody would like to do that, any political candidates, I'm not offering it to one. You have to be on with your political opponent. You know, Merrill Leffler, Nikki Conrad. Let's get the ball rolling. Lean on them.
And that's the funny thing. They are opponents, but those two have known each other for years. I bet you they would come in and have a great conversation.
Well, put it in there,
so
buddy.
I will. I'll talk to them
Put it
both.
there. All right. Supervisor Mark Campbell's been our guest. Anything else, Mark?
No, sir. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being on. This is AM 1400 KVFT.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
429, the news is next.
Custom, one of a kind. Introducing Custom Fabric Design, exclusively from Budget Blinds. Now you're the designer. We'll help you pick a pattern that matches your style perfectly. Next, choose from every color in the rainbow. Then take your pick of 6 luxurious fabrics. Now we do the rest. Budget Blinds will turn your design into beautiful custom drapes and pillows just for you. That's Custom Fabric Design, only from Budget Blinds. When we say we have style and service for every budget, we really mean it. See for yourself. Call for a free consultation right at home. Call 855-BUDGET-BLINDS or go to budgetblinds.com. This is yours alone for your one-of-a-kind home. So call 855-BUDGET-BLINDS. Call 855-BUDGET Blinds now. At participating independently owned and operated franchises only. Ask for details.
We are the land of the free because of the brave.
Alpha Media and Graham Tire want to thank our local military men and women for their service. We'll have our Wall of the Brave displayed at Graham Tire in Fort Dodge. Stop out to Graham Tire and sign the wall as a show of support for our military. You can even give a shout out to an active or former military person at yourfortdodge.com. All names will be recognized on air, and your serviceman or woman might even be the winner of a grand prize package worth over $800. On Friday, November 9th, we'll announce the lucky winner. Then on Saturday, November 10th, we'll have a live broadcast party for our winner, all nominees, and our listeners. Nominate your former or active military service person now at yourfortdodge.com. Then head out to Graham Tire in Fort Dodge and sign our Wall of the Brave. This special Veterans promotion is sponsored by Graham Tire, Sestech Builders, Rampton Trucking, Misty Harbor, J&M Construction, Iowa Outdoor Store, Sears Hometown Store, Olson Ironworks, the Blue Moose Saloon, and Alpha Media Fort Dodge.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagala with the KVFD Afternoon News. Senator Chuck Grassley has asked a female prosecutor from Arizona to ask questions tomorrow of the woman who has accused U.S. Supreme Court nominee of a sexual assault. Radio Iowa's O.K. Henderson reports.
Grassley says Rachel Mitchell will ask questions of Christine Blasey Ford and of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh instead of having Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee do the questioning. Democrats on the committee will still be able to ask questions of the two witnesses. Grassley says Mitchell is an experienced sex crimes prosecutor who will depoliticize the hearing and get to the truth. Instead, Grassley's words, grandstanding and giving senators an opportunity to launch their presidential campaigns. Radio Iowa, I'm O.K. Henderson.
On Monday, DNR staff from Mason City investigated a manure spill about 4 miles southwest of Eagle Grove in Wright County. Overnight on Sunday, manure from a hog confinement owned by DMC Property Rentals LLC of Humboldt backed up into a building, then flowed into a ditch. An unknown amount of manure reached drainage ditch 49, which enters the Boone River about 1 mile downstream. Owner Mitch Christopher discovered the spill about 9 a.m. on Monday. He immediately stopped the release and built dams to contain manure on site. DNR's field tests in drainage ditch 49 showed normal ammonia levels. Staff did not find any dead fish in the ditch, but did find live fish downstream. The DNR will continue to monitor cleanup and consider appropriate enforcement action. This week, the U.S. imposed 10% tariffs on another $200 billion worth of Chinese goods, which was met with retaliatory tariffs on $60 billion worth of American goods. Kirk Leeds, president and CEO of the Iowa Soybean Association, says hope for a long-term solution to the trade war with China are fading.
It's clear that both the U.S. government and now the Chinese government even more so appear to be kind of laying in for a long battle here. And there's just very little reason right now to be optimistic about any short-term resolutions.
A study released Tuesday by Iowa State University estimates because of new tariffs, Iowa's soybean industry faces losses between $159 million and $891 million. Leeds says it's possible the situation will get worse before it gets better.
I've been saying for a long time that the story of 2018 is one thing, but the thing that most farmers ought to be more concerned about, and I think the country should be more concerned about, is what about 2019? And that's where it could really get serious.
According to research and data from the Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance, Fort Dodge has seen considerable amount of job growth in the last 5 to 10 years. Fort Dodge Growth Alliance Economic Development Director Kelly Halstead shared a report with the Fort Dodge City Council on Monday detailing the job growth in the region.
In the last 5 years, we've added 1,449 new jobs on a net basis. And then over the last 10 year, which I think is even more important period, that we have increased our wages in our region, in our county, by 24.5%. So we're creating jobs that are actually raising the wages that we have in our community.
Halstead said that the largest sector of the local economy is healthcare and social assistance at 16.4%, with retail trade at 13.5% and manufacturing at 12.4%. Dennis Plotz is the executive director of the Growth Alliance and says Fort Dodge is in a good spot.
I do think that Fort Dodge is extremely well positioned right now. If you look at the investments that have been made in Webster County in recent years, you are getting huge investments that can't be moved. They're using so many more indigenous materials, and most importantly, they're companies that are worldwide, have access to the global markets.
This has been Alex Benzagala with the KVFD Afternoon News. Have a great day.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD Weatherology forecast. Clear skies this afternoon with a high of 64. West winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy skies tonight, lows around 49. High of 69 tomorrow, cloudy. Turning much cooler Friday and Saturday with highs in the upper 50s. Showers both days. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 64.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. December corn down 3/4 cent at 3.63. March down 3/4 at 3.75. May down a penny at 3.82.5, and July down a penny at 3.87 3/4. November soybeans up 4 1/4 at 8.50. January up 4 cents at 8.63 3/4. March beans closed up 3 3/4 at 8.76.5, and May up 3 3/4 at 8.89 3/4. December wheat down 3 1/4 cents at 5.17.5. Soybean meal up 1.50 a ton at 3.0770. October live cattle up 1.52 at 113.87. December up 1.65 at 118.85. September feeders up 42 cents at 157.05. October up $1.82 to 158.30. October lean hogs down 22 at 62.20. December down 52 at 57.22. I'm Dwayne Murley.
From the Fox Business Network, on Wall Street, the major averages giving up earlier gains, with all the major averages closing in the red after the Federal Reserve made its third interest rate hike this year, raising its benchmark rate by 1/4 point and indicating another increase is likely before the year's end. Financials and industrial stocks were among the laggards today, with the Dow closing down 107 points, the Nasdaq down 17, S&P 500 down 10. And shares of Bed Bath Beyond tumbling 15% in the extended session after the home goods retailer reported earnings and revenue missing Wall Street estimates. And Amazon is opening a new store that sells items from its website rated 4 stars or above, the company saying in a blog post. The store, called Amazon 4-Star, is set to open this Thursday in New York's Soho neighborhood. Amazon Prime members will pay the Amazon.com price when they shop there. An Amazon spokesperson said the store is permanent, not a pop-up location. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Julie Barsky.
Hey, honey.
Hi.
Sitting in the garage again, huh?
Yeah?
All alone?
Yeah.
On our son's bicycle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to be without your bike, so do something easy and protect it with Progressive Motorcycle Insurance. And when you ride with us for 4 straight years without an accident, we won't count your first one against you, no matter how much it costs. Visit Progressive.com to quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company.
Hi, I'm Michael Devine with Divine Intervention at AM 1400, KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. From 2 to 5, Monday through Friday, I'll be on the air talking local issues, local politics, local concerns. The only way this works, once again, is to have you join the conversation by calling 515-955-1400. Afternoons, 2 to 5, Divine Intervention. Please join the conversation. And I want to thank Alpha Media for allowing this program on the air in a town the size of Fort Dodge.
Hi, I'm Luke Loffersweiler. Comfort, caring, and dependability. That's what you'll experience at Loffersweiler Funeral Home. At Loffersweiler's, we've offered continuous service for over 160 years. Our family will be honored to serve you and your family for years to come. Remember, you can make a very difficult time much easier for your family and friends when you consider all your options in advance, such as no-cost pre-planning, prepaid service, and more. Let us help you today. We're Loffersweiler Funeral Home, Fort Dodge, continuous caring service since 1856.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, or the Severe Weather Advisor. The Severe Weather Advisor is brought to you by Bruce Funeral Home and Cremation, Fort Dodge. You can count on Bruce Funeral Home and Cremation to help you plan a personal and lasting tribute to your loved one with care, comfort, and compassion. That's Bruce Funeral Home and Cremation, Fort Dodge, Community Health Center of Fort Dodge, providing quality health care for all, including medical, dental, and behavioral health. Make an appointment at their newly remodeled location in Fort Dodge, Community Health Center, and Creative Cakes in the Crossroads Mall, Fort Dodge, making life sweet with espresso, lunch, gourmet cupcakes, and other sweet treats. Stop in for something special today at Creative Cakes in the Crossroads Mall, Fort Dodge. They make life sweet. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at jmike1400.
This week on the Iowa Watch Connection, I think the biggest challenge is people understanding what their rights are and recognizing when they might be threatened or infringed. How to handle situations when speech crosses a line.
I try to focus on the discussions that I have around education. So mostly getting people saying about the things I'm not having to hurt another group.
And finding meaningful solutions takes effort.
To confront folks in power to be able to change things and also bring it to their attention.
Bias and hate speech on campus. Our topic this week.
The Iowa Watch Connection.
Well, I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher, Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell, and he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states, 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Divine Intervention at AM 1400 KVFD, where Fort Dodge talks.
Well, it is time to talk here at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. By the way, we're on YouTube now. We're no longer on Ustream. We're on YouTube at 1400 KVFD. Just go to YouTube, type in 1400 KVFD, and there we are. And by the way, it's a much clearer picture than Ustream ever was, and that's terrific. I want to thank Mark Campbell and Greg Hora especially for being here today. Greg always brought the information, always brings the top quality information on what's happening in the ag world here in Iowa, especially in the pork business. And we had a pretty good conversation with Supervisor Campbell about mental health in our area. It's inadequate. It's inadequate in the state of Iowa. We need to understand that, and I hope we can step up and do something about it. I think it's going to take more funding, and of course, that's a dirty word with a lot of people. Let me say again, the third time in 45 minutes, I'm not somebody who believes throwing money at something is going to solve anything. A lot of it goes to bureaucrats and paper shufflers. When you have a new program, you have to have state employees then, don't you? Then you have to pay them with benefits and all these sort of things. And by the time the dollar you're spending gets to the person who needs it, in this case, a mental health patient, maybe they're only getting a dime out of the dollar. That's no way to run a world. Maybe we can do better. Maybe we can do better. Whatever we need to do, we need to do. There's too much untreated pain out there is the only way to describe it. People who have mental health problems go through a lot of pain. They really do. And sometimes with tragic results there. The suicide rate is up, especially among young veterans, which is a tragedy, an absolute tragedy. So I hope we can get something done. It's time to start talking about it. There's still a stigma around mental health. I hope we don't have to deal with it much longer, but there's still a stigma around mental health. Let's just understand that it exists, and let's do whatever we can to assist. And if someone breaks their leg, we're going to be there. If someone has broken emotions or a distorted concept of reality or whatever their problem is, drugs, alcohol, whatever. Did you see that in the Des Moines Register? All the deaths that result from alcohol abuse. I mean, we can't get the legalization of marijuana done in the state of Iowa, and alcohol abuse in this country is unbelievable, resulting in 26,000 automobile fatalities every single year. All kinds of marital problems, abandoned and abused children due to drunkenness. It's a terrible, terrible problem. Early deaths and sickness because of alcohol. And we're worried about marijuana in the state of Iowa. Our ancestors are going to look back on this, or not our ancestors, but in the future, we're going to be looked at as a very strange society that would talk about marijuana as if it's some sort of deadly drug, when the real deadly drug is liquor. Come on. Look, I have a little experience in this area. My gateway drug was not marijuana. It was grain belt. If you don't know what grain belt was, ask your grandparents. Maybe it was Marlboro cigarettes even. I don't know. But my gateway drug was grain belt. I still remember it. Me and two other teenage boys had a 6-pack of grain belt. We were in a 54 Chevy out on a gravel road, and we thought we were cool. Now, I'd just like to point out we didn't molest anybody either. And I don't think Brent Kavanaugh did either. But no. 3 teenage kids from a farm town in Iowa, we were not molesters in those days. And I'd be real surprised if Brent Kavanaugh and his Ivy League pals were as well, but I've been surprised before. I know some of his accusers are wacky. I mean, you get Michael Avenatti in the mix, and I mean, Michael Avenatti and this claim of gang rape could be the Me Too movement's jumping the shark. Michael Avenatti may have struck a real blow against the Me Too movement. And in a way, that's not good. You know, since this thing's been coming around and since I've been talking about it on the air and trying to host any woman who'll come on and talk about these things, I don't want anybody to talk about the gruesome details of being attacked. But I'll tell you, I have heard from a lot of women who I've known personally and I know to be honest, straightforward people all the way, right down the line. And they've told me about very difficult situations they found themselves in with men they trusted. And I've been appalled by that. I hope I never did that. I do not ever remember doing that to a woman in my life. Mainly because I respected women. I mean, I drank as a young man. And yeah, it made me aroused. But I don't think I tried to force myself on anyone. What a coward's way to do things. What a miserable coward's way to do things, to force yourself or to get physical with a woman. That way. I don't know. I don't know. But I think Michael Avenatti struck the Me Too movement a real blow here. This is, you know where that phrase jumping the shark came from? Happy Days, the old 70s TV show, you know, with the Fonz and hey, I'm cool. Well, in one episode, Fonzie, in his leather jacket, and of course, Henry Winkler was not a real powerful looking guy. Once you got the jacket and jeans off him and the motorcycle boots, he was just kind of a small, thin guy. So they have an episode where Fonzie, for some reason, I don't remember what, was on water skis and had to jump a shark. I mean, to save humanity or to save Richie and Potsy or God knows what. I don't remember. But when that episode aired, the show was pretty much over. I mean, it continued for another a year or so. But that was all the further they could take that show. I mean, the actors had all gotten older. Richie Cunningham, formerly Opie Taylor, was pushing 30, and so were the other actors. Arthur Fonzarelli, or Henry Winkler, he was pushing 40 by the time Happy Days finally ended. So they really couldn't keep on with the teenage angst in Milwaukee storyline anymore. Richie Cunningham character, I believe, even got married. Mary Beth, wasn't that her name? Real pretty girl. But yeah, the show was over. The show was really over. The show was really over when Fonzie jumped the shark. And I think Michael Avenatti bringing a woman forward who is accusing Brett Kavanaugh and one or two of his friends of taking part in gang rapes is jumping the shark for the Me Too movement. Absolutely jumping the shark. It's just idiocy. I mean, come on, man. Now, Brett Kavanaugh is a serial gang rapist? Good God. Yeah, that's just terrible. I mean, it diminishes the awful crime of rape to have this man out there running around talking like this. And what Avenatti's trying to do is keep the spotlight on him by using rape as a tool. That's horrible. I mean, you don't know whether to laugh or cry or get sick or what. But I think more than anything, and the Democrats, if you've noticed, the Democrats don't want to touch this too much. They don't really want to talk about Michael Avenatti and this ridiculous claim. I can't say I blame him either. It's absurd. Anyway, 515-955-1400, 515-955-1400 if you would like to join the program for any reason today. By the way, I have at Supervisor Campbell's suggestion, it was a brilliant suggestion, Supervisor Campbell's suggestion, I will offer this radio station, and it would probably have to be done in the early evening. Maybe between 5 and 6 or 5 and 7 or in there somewhere. When people are getting off work, but they haven't settled in for the evening. So that's that kind of 2-hour window we have. But what we want to do is offer all political candidates who are on the ballot to debate each other on this show. The format, and I haven't put it together completely, but the format will look like this. There will be some agreed upon questions. I will have a few questions that I will insist on asking both candidates. And these questions will be known to the candidates well in advance of their appearance on this radio station. The candidates must agree to answer questions from the public on the phone. Okay? We're not going to have this write your questions down on a slip of paper and send them to the moderator, and then we'll ask them and we'll tell you what's what. No, we're not going to do that. I have had a response to this offer already. And I'm going to communicate this acceptance of my offer to this person's opponent. If the opponent is okay with it, we'll schedule a time when these two candidates can be on the air. And again, you heard the format. We'll do it. I hope you can spread this around word of mouth a little bit. We will have this. We're going to do at least one candidate forum. We just talked about it in the last half hour, and I'll be talking about it for the next week or two and see how much interest there is. This, of course, goes out to Senator Kryenbrink and Mr. O'Brien. This goes out to Representative Sexton and his opponent, and I'm sorry, I don't know his opponent's name right off the top of my head. This is going out to Ann Meyer and Dr. Megan. This will go out to Nikki Conrad and Supervisor Loeffler and anyone else running for office this election cycle. Okay? If I could get those four pairs on, that would be terrific. We'll just have to see. But there's the offer. If you see one of the candidates out there somewhere, relay that offer. We'll see what happens. 5 o'clock. Thanks for listening.
If you're a gearhead or not, you'll enjoy the Under the Hood Car Show every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD.
Open to changing his mind. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Trump tackling several topics at a news conference in New York City this afternoon, including the growing allegations against his pick for Supreme Court Justice. Fox's Steve Rappaport has more live.
Lisa, President Trump sympathizes with Judge Brett Kavanaugh based on his own experiences.
I was accused by 4 or 5 women who got paid a lot of money to make up stories about me. We caught them.
And he thinks Democrats aren't really interested in the truth when it comes to the allegations.
They know it's a big, fat con job.
But the president wouldn't rule out pulling the plug on Kavanaugh's nomination.
If I thought he was guilty of something like this, yeah, sure.
Judge Kavanaugh firmly denies allegations of sexual misconduct from 3 women. Kavanaugh and accuser Christine Blasey Ford will testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee tomorrow. Lisa?
Steve, also during the news conference, President Trump was asked about the status of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. The New York Times reported he would consider using the 25th Amendment to remove the president from office.
He said he never said it. He said he doesn't believe it. He said he has a lot of respect for me, and he was very nice, and we'll see.
The president is expected to meet with Rosenstein tomorrow. The Federal Reserve raising a key interest rate for the 3rd time this year in response to a strong U.S. economy and signaling it'll likely maintain a pace of gradual rate hikes,
lifting them to a range of 2 to 2.25%. The Fed has been rolling back policies aimed at stimulating the economy since the financial crisis, raising rates 8 times since 2015, with 1 more increase penciled in for this year and 3 forecasts for 2019.
Fox's Hillary Barsky. activity. On Wall Street, stocks gave up an early gain and closed lower after the move by the Fed. The Dow fell 106 points. The Nasdaq lost 17 points. The S&P dropped 9 points. Fox News, fair and balanced.
When the need for senior care arises, there's no place like home. Your loved ones should never have to give up living at home. Visiting Angels will provide home care for your mom or dad at home up to 24 hours per day, including personal care, meals, and light housework. You'll select your professional caregiver with Visiting Angels. Look up visitingangels.com or call 877-374-LIVE. That's 877-374-LIVE. Franchises are available. Visiting Angels, America's choice in senior home care.
Noted author, former chief medical correspondent, and Salonpas user Dr. Bob Arnott.
The human body has billions of pain receptors. Block those receptors with the anesthetics found in Salonpas Lidocaine Plus, and you'll have relief. Salonpas Lidocaine Plus contains 2 anesthetics, including the maximum strength lidocaine available without a prescription. They numb aggravated nerves for effective, lasting relief. For relief, try what I use, Salonpas Lidocaine Plus.
In the silver box with the blue wave.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. I'm Alex Benzagala with the KVFD Afternoon News. Senator Chuck Grassley has asked a female prosecutor from Arizona to ask questions tomorrow of the woman who has accused U.S. Supreme Court nominee of a sexual assault. Radio Iowa's O.K. Henderson reports.
Grassley says Rachel Mitchell will ask questions of Christine Blasey Ford and of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh instead of having Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee do the questioning. Democrats on the committee will still be able to ask questions of the 2 witnesses. Grassley says Mitchell is an experienced sex crimes prosecutor who will depoliticize the hearing and get to the truth instead of, in Grassley's words, grandstanding and giving senators an opportunity to launch their presidential campaigns. Radio Iowa, I'm O.K. Henderson.
On Monday, DNR staff from Mason City investigated a manure spill about 4 miles southwest of Eagle Grove in Wright County. Overnight on Sunday, manure from a hog confinement owned by DMC Property Rentals LLC of Humboldt backed up into a building, then flowed into a ditch. An unknown amount of manure reached drainage ditch 49, which enters the Boone River about 1 mile downstream. Owner Mitch Christopher discovered the spill about 9 a.m. on Monday. He immediately stopped the release and built dams to contain manure on site. DNR's field tests in drainage ditch 49 showed normal ammonia levels. Staff did not find any dead fish in the ditch, but did find live fish downstream. The DNR will continue to monitor cleanup and consider appropriate enforcement action. This week, the U.S. imposed 10% tariffs on another $200 billion worth of Chinese goods, which was met with retaliatory tariffs on $60 billion worth of American goods. Kirk Leeds, president and CEO of the Iowa Soybean Association, says hope for a long-term solution to the trade war with China are fading.
It's clear that both the U.S. government and now the Chinese government even more so appear to be kind of laying in for a long battle here. And there's just very little reason right now to be optimistic about any short-term resolutions.
A study released Tuesday by Iowa State University estimates because of new tariffs, Iowa's soybean industry faces losses between $159 million and $891 million. Leeds says it's possible the situation will get worse before it gets better.
I've been saying for a long time that the story of 2018 is one thing, but the thing that most farmers ought to be more concerned about, and I think the country should be more concerned about, is what about 2019? And that's where it could really get serious.
According to research and data from the Greater Fort Dodge Growth Alliance, Fort Dodge has seen considerable amount of job growth in the last 5 to 10 years. Fort Dodge Growth Alliance Economic Development Director Kelly Halstead shared a report with the Fort Dodge City Council on Monday detailing the job growth in the region.
In the last 5 years, we've added 1,449 new jobs on a net basis. And then over the last 10 year, which I think is even more important period, that we have increased our wages in our region, in our county, by 24.5%.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, it's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. I am Dave Ramsey, your host. Thank you for joining us. Open phones at 888-825-5225. 888-825-5225. Grace is with us in Annapolis, Maryland. Hi, Grace. How are you?
Hi, Dave. Thank you so much for taking my call. I'm doing well.
Great. How can I help?
Well, I'm a 45-year-old self-employed graphic designer, and my husband and I are out of debt except for our house, and we have an emergency fund, and we're just trying to work our way through all the insurances that we need. So we have life insurance and all that stuff, and I'm applying for disability insurance policy, and the company that's offering me a policy wants to permanently exclude my hands, which I clearly use my hands a lot for everything that I do, which is related to graphic design. So I'm wondering, I know you recommend disability insurance, but is there ever a time when it wouldn't be worth it, like in this case?
Well, it could be, yeah. Most of the policies now are what are called own-oc policies, meaning if you can't do your own occupation, that you are disabled, but they don't pay, until 65. They just pay 5 years or 10 years or 2 years or whatever. And so
this one would pay till I was 65.
Okay. And so,
and they're offering me for total disability, they're offering me $3,250 a month. And for partial $1,625 a month, but I would have to pay $2,177 a year. And I'm just trying to figure out, it feels like gambling.
That's steep.
It feels a lot of money.
All insurance is kind of gambling. All insurance is you're transferring the risk of something happening, and you're gambling. Your house is going to burn down when you have homeowners insurance. That's what you're doing.
That's true too.
But So are you dealing with an insurance broker?
Yes.
That shops several different places, and this is the best thing they can find for you.
Right. This one was the lowest one. They put me in class 4A, and so that was good. But then they said, based on, I had been having some nerve pains in my fingers, and my doctor, without even running any tests, she was just like, "Oh, it's probably arthritis because you're 45, and that happens when you get older."
Oh, so that showed up on your medical then.
And which is why they want to exclude my hands.
Of course they want to exclude your hands. You've already got problems with them. That makes a difference.
Yeah.
That's a big, it wasn't so random after all.
No, I didn't think it was random. I didn't think it was random, but it's just like, I'm not, I run marathons, I'm fine, I'm fit, but,
But you might not be able to be a graphic
do.
artist, and that would make you declared disabled, and you'd collect from them. So, yeah, they're wanting to exclude that. That would be normal, given that they found this on a medical transcript. So, yeah, that would be normal. Now, the only other way you could go, I'm not sure it's worth it. It sounds like it's awfully expensive, and if you became disabled, you're married, your husband has an income, you would be supported that way, I assume, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'd like for you to have disability insurance. This is awfully expensive, and for no more coverage than you're getting, and given this exclusion, I probably would walk from it. Now, maybe a way to beat it is, are you a member of any kind of professional association?
No, but I could be.
The Graphic Artists of America Association, or whatever you call it.
They have a guild. They have a guild. I'm not actively a member right now, but I was.
Depending on how expensive it is to be an active member of the guild, they very well may offer a group policy through that is much cheaper and might not even look at the medical.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
So, like if you're a home builder and you join the National Home Builders Association, you probably can get disability through there a lot cheaper than you could if you just went to your insurance broker. So that's another way to beat this. But yeah, I'm with you. I think given that you have this medical transcript and it says problems with